W239BF Rochester. The Sports Leader. 95.7 FM, AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
As Danger would say, hey!
Hello!
Welcome on in. Sports bar here. Battaglia and 3T joining us today, sitting in that chair. My favorite moment yesterday, Tim, Danny was filling in. I appreciate the Dan DeLorean, as always. One of our regulars, Brad from Rochester, called in and called him Tim.
Nice.
Yeah, so,
I think that means I've made it.
Yeah, like either that or the take was so bad that
no.
perhaps that would have been it.
I bet it was a great take then.
No, it was not. Those are kind of rare from you. Welcome to the Sports Bar. Great day for our town. Yes, the big announcement today. We'll get to that. We've got some Bills news here on the eve of game number 3, the Bills and Dolphins. Tomorrow we will have a 1-hour show between, well, you could look at it a different way too. It's just one gigantic pregame show tomorrow here on the Fan Rochester, beginning with Brownie and Tasker at 1, and then you get us at 3. Then the Bills Radio Network takes over at 4 o'clock. What is the kickoff tomorrow night? 8:15? 8:15, yep. So not as bad as it was way back when kickoff was always at 9 o'clock for Monday Night Football. And, all right, you get a game that was overtime and we'd be, past midnight. No, those days are over at least. I do like some of the Monday nights that start at 7, though, Tim. I did like that this week.
There's a positive and a negative to that, though, because if there's one starting at 7, there's one starting at 9:30 or 10.
Right. So, but for the Bills, they get 7:15 against the Falcons coming up. That'll be Monday night in October. So we got a ways to go to get to that. Here's what's coming up on the show today. We haven't explored the Miami end of things, and boy, it looks kind of messy down there, doesn't it? Does Mike McDaniel actually lose his job following this game? Well, at some point, if they don't turn this around, Brandon Tobin, Leroy and Tobin will be joining us. WQAM. You can catch them middays, 10 to 2 inside the Odyssey app. Brandon's always got great takes coming from South Florida. So we'll talk some Dolphins football and get the other side. I don't know. Maybe we'll be worried by the end of it. Maybe not. I remember our conversation this week last year. It was also week 3. And the Bills are facing Jacksonville. And it's the typical, media and fans, well, it's the NFL, anything could happen. And Mia O'Brien covers the Jaguars for 1010XL, and we brought her on. And by the end of the conversation, nope, the Bills are winning this game, and they're winning it convincingly. It sounded like things weren't buttoned up. But we don't really follow the Jaguars all that close, even now. We follow the Dolphins a little more closely, both on a national scale and because they're on the AFC East. Brandon Tobin is it as bad as it looks for the Dolphins? That's coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. Winners the bottom of this hour. PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetMGM network. So what we do with PJ is we just don't blindly, guess the games that he wants to talk about. So he knows. Look, we're gonna pick the Bills against the spread. Maybe some props. He's going to give you some winners. He's also going to pick the Syracuse game. Now, we can't bet on the Syracuse game, but if I had to guess which way PJ would go here, they're playing Clemson. Clemson's 17.5-point favorites. Clemson coming off a brutal loss to Georgia Tech. Yes, it's on the road. Yes, it's a conference game, blah, blah. You can't be preseason playoff favorite from the ACC and lose on the road to Georgia Tech. So I'm going to guess that PJ is going to say this, that it's a big bounce back week for Clemson. Have you seen Syracuse play? I'm not putting any stock into a win over Colgate. Again, we can't bet on that in New York State, but we'll get PJ's thoughts if you're a Cuse fan coming up at the bottom of this hour. You're also welcome to join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X, our handle, The Fan Rochester. We'll do our best to keep up on that. You can drop a note on on YouTube, right in the comments section there. We do have Tim's name correct on the YouTube.
Love it.
That's going to be my job today because I'm in charge of, hitting the buttons on that, not to hit the wrong one. And leave a comment there. And, yeah, table is set for you. It's a rare Wednesday in football season where the Bills are playing and we're not leading with the Buffalo Bills because, yes, we love the Bills, far and away the number one team here in the Flower City, but we are a Rochester sports talk show. And credit Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, they had the news last night, and if you missed it like me, I look at my phone first thing in the morning, like, no kidding. What we're all hoping for is going to happen, that we are going to get a major at Oak Hill once again. Not that we were concerned that Oak Hill would never get another one, but the reality is that there are so many great courses around the country, and there's a lot of competition. And when it comes to hospitality and reaching into deep pockets for corporations, sure, we have some corporations here, but not as many as other big cities. We're a small city. So, small city on a big stage. We did it again, 2035. The PGA Championship will be coming back to Oak Hill Country Club. I am not wishing time away whatsoever. But, Tim, before I get your thoughts on what 2035 would mean, it was last time you were in, and we had this kicker of a story, the kicker always being the last thing in the sports update we do in shots, something that's like, okay, this makes absolutely no sense. That Liberty University announced a future opponent. And this happens all the time in college football. Hey, we're Syracuse, and we're going to play Penn State. I think that's coming up, when 28, 29, something like that. Liberty announced they have a game with James Madison in the year 2040.
You got to be ready to put butts in seats, man. 15-year head start.
You let me down. You said you would send me an invite on my calendar for the year 2040 to make sure that we're getting together to watch that game to mark time. Okay. All right?
I thought you were going to do that yourself.
Okay,
it's in mine.
Okay,
it's
you're saying I should have done that?
Well, yeah, you got your phone right there.
I didn't get you the invite. You didn't get the invite.
All right, I will do it after the show or during a break. It will come your way, and it will be locked in for 2040. Liberty James Madison. We're gonna be there.
Yeah, and for some reason, if I can't make it or you can't make it, this is really gallows humor, folks. Very dark humor. Disclaimer. Raise a glass for me, okay?
A sports bar party.
Yeah, sports bar party in the year 2040. This isn't that bad. When you get announced a major, it's always a decade ahead. And we kind of wonder what's up because it had always been clockwork. I mean, I've been in this town my whole adult life, right? 2003, Sean McKeel. Yay, he wins. That was great. Shortly, a few months thereafter, congratulations, you get 2013. Yay. 2013 comes, another champion. Yay. Hey, you get 2023. Hey, 2023, we were kind of worried. Oh, my gosh, now it's in May. Oh, we're live in Rochester. Things can get cold. Sometimes it snows. No, it worked out just fine. There was one rainy Saturday, and they played through it. Sunday and the rest of the week, beautiful. Wait, we got kudos. We didn't get the announcement. Oh, wait, there's some sort of lawsuit alleging bad things for Oak Hill and some members. Is that a problem? Tim, we still got it. I'm okay with waiting the 2 years. I'm not going to upset. Bethpage Black gets 2033. That's always going to be in the rotation. Oak Hill gets 2035.
I'm excited for it. And you want to know a secret here? I actually knew before it was broken, and I was sworn to secrecy. So I don't know how this happens, but I could have been the one that broke the news if I had just violated that trust. I did know this before it was tweeted.
Huh.
By about an hour and a half.
All right, so
I learned last night around 9:30.
Trustworthy man.
I guess so.
You did not break the news.
I should have.
You didn't tell me. You could have, we could have made a deal. I'm just trying to think. Who would have been your source? Anyways, I don't want to get you.
You do know that person. And it is not one of the people that broke it.
Okay.
But you do know who.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, you're like, ha, good. I'm
I know
filling in for
things.
danger tomorrow.
I know things.
Tim, 2035.
I'll be there.
Scotty Scheffler, I think, would be there. He's going to be 39 at that point.
Wow.
Brooks Koepka, the defending champion at Oak Hill, which we will say at the time, he won it last time. At age 45, I think he'll still be playing. Rory will be 46. Tiger will be 59. Ain't no Tiger Woods playing in 2035.
I can't say no because it's a major, and maybe he'll be in the port where he's just playing only majors, kind of like Nicklaus and Palmer did at the tail ends of their careers. But I'm going to lean no just because of how off his body has been for the last decade.
I'm going to lean no, too, because when those guys were doing that sort of thing, they weren't getting gigantic paychecks. I would think that if Tiger wants to show up and people are like, ooh, Tiger, it'll be for his own event, the Genesis, or some live thing. Don't laugh. Who knows by that point? Everybody might have made nice. I have no idea. The world would. Can we improve as a town before 2035?
Absolutely.
Can we get downtown kind of perked up? Can we just all be a little bit better? Because I thought we put on a nice show, but we still have a long way to go in our town, I think, here. So
there's plenty of time between now and 35 to get the kinks figured out and straighten the arrow there. I think, again, we get a major event every decade or so, and this is just another one in our pocket to look forward to.
I didn't see, and somebody fill me in if you want to. You can call us 866-4FAN, 866-4326, or handle the fan Rochester. I just saw the year 2035. I didn't see the exact dates, and I only bring that up because I don't know if the PGA will ever go back, meaning it was always we grew up and you would have Augusta National in April, and then it would be June, normally Father's Day weekend. You would get the U.S. Open. July, you're waking up on a weekend, third weekend in July, watching the final round of the Open. We call it the British Open. They like us to call it the Open. And then August came around, and that kind of put a bow on everything. But when August came around, well, it's going up against football, and well, May has sweeps, and May has more TV viewers. Let's put it in May. And Tim, I granted, when it was here in 2013 and 2003, like August is like right now. It was just perfect. So I don't know if they'll be flexible on that, but I just found it curious. I didn't see the dates here, like the exact dates of the year 2035.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly when they made that move. It was right around COVID. It might have been 20, it might have been 19, but it was right in that general window of a year or so. And I don't think there's been any issues with it since then, so I imagine that they're going to stay the course. But again, it's so far away while also being right down the road here.
Yeah,
it's 10 years, but it's going to go by in a flash. There's a whole lot of time to make that fix if they decide, like, oh, maybe it will play better in New York in August instead of May.
Yeah, and in May sometimes spectacular. You grew up in this town. Think of Mother's Day. Think of things around that time. It's not Mother's Day weekend, by the way. It's the weekend after that they would put it in. But I do remember this and how we mark time with sports. Good friend of the show, Brian Koziel. He hosts the Sabres Radio Network, Tee to Green show, which you can listen to inside the Odyssey app, also on WGR. We had him on PGA Week, and it was 2 years prior to it coming to Rochester. So we're just coming out of the pandemic. It's 2021. And it's snowing. We put him on the day it is snowing. I'm like, oh my gosh, if this actually happens 2 years from now, somebody from above hates us because this can't happen. And Brian's like, what are we going to do? It's same reason why, hey, the NFL draft in Buffalo. Okay. It could be spectacular in the final weekend of April. It also could be miserable. So
if Green Bay could pull it off, Buffalo could pull it off.
I think we could. My idea of like having the draft actually at Niagara Falls with the backdrop, making it for TV, that's not what it's about. It's about the teams actually making money, and that'll be a gold mine for the Pagulas, and when they get all the development done. Heck, it could be I think we'll have a draft in Buffalo before we get to 2035. I do think, veering off here, we do this in the sports bar sometimes here, but I see a timeline where, hey, the new stadium opens, and what are they going to do with the old stadium? Well, they're going to knock it down. What are they going to do with that area? They're going to just make it all parking? Nope. It's been rezoned. You'll see development there. They will make money off of that development. And in order for that development to kind of work, you got to bring in events. So as soon as that development gets all spruced up, that's why I do believe, Tim, that they didn't put in for 2028 here for the Bills draft. They're going to wait until that all gets done so that we can kind of showcase it, which, again, I'm fine with that. We'll have some Bills talk here coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, more from the Dolphins side. Brandon Tobin, news out of Buffalo today, not surprising, ruled out for this game. Matt Milano ruled out for this game. Matt Oliver, questionable. Cam Lewis, so you might have somebody promoted from the practice squad. Dare I say Jordan Poyer, okay, if Lewis cannot go to play that nickel or dime position. We don't know anything about Shaq Thompson. That's the other one. And Taron Johnson also, who's been limited. So if you're without Johnson, you're without Lewis, you're a little thin back there. That being said, Tim, I'm not worried about this game whatsoever.
Yeah, I was just going to say, good thing it's the Dolphins on a short week, because the Bills only have 3 days to prepare, but the Dolphins have only the same amount of time, and they are in much worse shape, even without the injuries, than the Bills are. So I think, like last week, I think the Bills, it's a divisional game. Anything can happen, yada, yada, yada. But they're so much better than the division that, like, only so much can happen. You're not going to have some wind tunnel game like we had a few years ago with the Patriots there. This is just the Bills beating down on their little brothers, and it's going to happen again tomorrow. 3
things that have to combine happen here, okay? One, and this is the obvious one, Bills for the first time in, 25 games, lose the takeaway giveaway, that they're going to lose a few possessions. Number 2, I'm not going to say one. I'm going to say 2 big hitters, whether that's Achane out the door or Hill over the top. But again, I'm okay with that. And then 3, add in a special teams touchdown, like something that the Dolphins would have to convincingly win that phase of the game. So what I'm telling you is Miami will have to win all 3 phases. Anything but, you don't stand a chance in this game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Tua is all right. Josh Allen, Tua said himself, is basically twice the player that he is. So, again, Josh Allen breaks his nose. Tough guy, hockey player. Get back out there. He'll have the visor on. He did allude yesterday that it's different, but he also played in college with a visor on, so it can't be that difficult to adjust. He's going to be fine. If our biggest concern is Josh Allen's nose offensively, then they're going to be good.
Yeah, and like, if this were a playoff game, would Taron Johnson be out there? Would any of these other? Sure.
Short week, too.
Yeah, this is something we explore with Danger on Monday and then yesterday as well, that the Bills are in a good position right now where you're load managing things. Like, okay, could Taron Johnson actually go in this game, or do you not need him? Tell me more about Ed Oliver. Well, Oliver's still in a walking boot, but any of these guys, Tim, this is your subdivision team coming in.
Right. Yeah, this is the bye game.
Yeah, like, okay, like every once in a decade, Appalachian State will beat you, okay? And yes, as you said, yada, yada, I say blah, blah. Okay, it's the NFL. These are paid professionals. This is by far the worst version of the Dolphins that we've seen here in the McDermott. And, last time the Bills actually lost to the Dolphins at home, Rex Ryan was the head coach, which is kind of nuts. So, fun things we've got planned in the sports bar today. We will talk a little bit more about the Bills next hour. Brandon Tobin from WQAM in Miami will be joining us. We'll talk baseball with shots. How are your Guardians still? Like, this
Many are wondering.
Right. Like, this is the problem. Hear me out. Baseball and college football, I think they share one thing in common, that the regular season meant something. And for teams that pile up wins, like the Brewers, like the Phillies, like the Tigers and Blue Jays, but yet to the same party, you could potentially see the Guardians, no offense, or the Diamondbacks. Heck, I'm going to take a shot at my own team. The Mets, does that really look like a playoff team now? No, it should be the best of the best. But not only are we not going to get the good old days here, and sorry for going down that road, but Tim,
Baseball writer.
Yeah, baseball. We're gonna get expanded. You don't believe me, and I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna go up to 8 teams. You watch, and you'll have the team with the number 1 record playing a team that's 500.
Yeah.
What is the point?
I thought 4 was the perfect number, just because 2 is too few, and you have 3 divisions, so you've got to figure out a way to do that. That was 30 years ago. It was fine. I thought it worked excellent. Everybody needs to make more money. So they add 5, and then they want to make more money. So they add 6. Then we're going to add 2 more teams entirely to get to 32. And then, to your point, half the league is making the playoffs. Sure, it's baseball. You have 2 good days in a row. You win a series now in baseball. Like, you play 162 games, and you get a 24-hour stretch where you have excellent pitching, and you're just eliminating the best team in baseball.
Well,
it's crazy.
This is a point made by Nate Rowan to us off the air one time. Follow the economics of this. If you were a middling team like the Reds, who don't spend money, but yet, hey, look at us. Here we are. Or the Diamondbacks, who shed payroll and they get in. What is the incentive for these middling teams to go out and bolster a bullpen or anything like that? It artificially keeps the market lower when you get to the off season, because for teams that are uber conscious about budget, you can justify to your fan base, hey, we were competitive,
Right?
And you don't need to go balls to the wall here.
As a small market, I very, very quote that, because these are professional baseball teams worth billions of dollars. Making the playoffs is good enough for probably 20 of these 30 teams in baseball. So just getting there
The Guardians
with the
are-
expansion,
yeah,
yes.
the Guardians are the example.
If the Pirates gave a quarter of the amount of time that Cleveland does, they could be competitive.
Oh yeah, that there are teams that don't try, and that would be number 1 on my list. Also, the team that's wearing the ball cap. Why are you wearing a Rockies hat today? What is that?
So
You were wearing an
I knew
80s
this.
hat.
I
Yeah.
knew this was coming.
We're late for PJ Glasser, but I'm looking at this, and it's the state flag. It looks like the old hockey jersey. What is this?
It's
from
the
spring
batting.
training?
It's the batting practice hat from a few years ago. But I knew that you were going to ask this. I'm in playoff mode, so I'm only wearing hats of teams that don't matter or are completely irrelevant to Cleveland's hopes. In hopes, I'm not even superstitious. It's just something that I do. So maybe I am superstitious. I don't know. But
no,
yeah,
that's weird.
why.
That's weird. Most people would wear the hat of the team that they like a Guardians hat.
I've got a lot of hats.
Although I'm still not over that logo. It's the dumbest logo in sports.
Clip art.
Yeah, clip art. 6th grade art project. PJ Glasser, your host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network, joining us next. He's Terrible Take Timmy. Tim Schneider in for Danger today. My name is Gene Battaglia here on The Fan.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Big news for our town. The PGA Championship returning to Oak Hill Country Club in the year 2035. It'll mark the fourth straight decade that this major has come to the Flower City. Ed Oliver and Matt Milano are out. The injury report lists Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson all questionable for tomorrow night's game. Josh Allen talking about the Dolphins' defense.
Well, I think they're playing a lot better than maybe what their record shows. Their front over there is filled with a lot of guys that can get after the quarterback. So we got to be on our P's and Q's and understand what they're going to try to do to us.
Coverage tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock here on The Fan. We'll talk college football and NFL football, how to play this. BJ Glasser, host to Send It In on the BetQL Network, will be joining us. Cubs are up on the Pirates 7-4 in the top of the 8th. Reds up on the Cardinals 6-2 in the 7th. Dean Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You know, if you are with us every Wednesday, I feel like you get a little smarter just listening to PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network. And one of the basic rules when it comes to this is don't let emotion get in the way. Don't let recency bias get in the way. PJ, if I can channel, and again, I don't know 100%. I don't know which way you're picking these games, okay? But if we're going to start here, PJ, I always appreciate your time, bud. If we're going to start here, Syracuse and Clemson, and yay, the Orange, they're coming off a win of Colgate. They didn't have to run here. Clemson's coming off a terrible loss at Georgia Tech. I mean, for a team that's a national contender, that really shouldn't happen. Now Clemson, home, minus a 17.5. Minus 17.5. PJ, if I'm going to guess, and I don't know for sure, you're going to say this is the bounce back for Clemson. You know, ride easy. PJ, how are you today?
Gene, I'm doing good. Always good to be with you. You would be correct, sir. I do like Clemson this week against Syracuse. I mean, coming into the year, everybody was picking Clemson to win the ACC, myself included. They were massive favorites. I think they were like minus 110, just around even money to win the league. And the next closest was like Miami at plus 400. So Clemson was heavy favorites. They lose to LSU, obviously lose to Georgia Tech. But, I mean, both of those teams are good with good defenses. I think they're going to be able to move the ball against Syracuse. This feels like a 45-17 type game to me. Clemson, obviously, just with how that game went last week, they're at home. And look, their season's still not over. They have no more margin for error. I mean, they're probably going to have to win out. But right now their goal is to try and win the ACC and find a way to do that. I mean, last year, right, they had 3 losses, got to the ACC title, and made it to the playoffs. So Dabo will remind them of that. I would expect a good effort, a bounce back from Clemson. I like them to roll on Saturday. So, yes, Gene, I did lay the 17.5 with them.
Some of these matchups, PJ, even it's been a few years, but my brain hasn't recalibrated to some of these conference games, and this is a conference game. Auburn, Oklahoma, and Auburn getting 6.5 here. Is there a play with the line or a prop bet? What do you see in this matchup?
I like the Sooners, Gene, minus 6.5. I think a lot of people look at this matchup and they'll say, okay, so Oklahoma played Michigan a couple weeks ago, and they were 5.5-point favorites in that game, and now they're 6.5-point favorites against Auburn. So you would think maybe the value is on Auburn. I think the eye test would tell you maybe Auburn's a better team than Michigan is. But the really one data point we have with Auburn was their opening win against Baylor. And, Gene, Baylor's defense isn't very good, especially when they go up against good offenses, and they just had no answer for Auburn's run game. They couldn't stop the backs, but they especially couldn't stop the quarterback run. Jackson Arnold, the Auburn quarterback, ran all over them. You're just not going to be able to do that on Oklahoma's defense. They're one of the best in the country, and they have the Heisman favorite right now at quarterback in John Mateer. So I was high on the Sooners coming into the year. They're on a roll right now. And Jackson Arnold, who I just mentioned is Auburn's quarterback, was with Oklahoma last year. He transferred in to Auburn. So Brett Venables, that coaching staff, they obviously know Arnold very well. They know how to attack him, what his weaknesses are. I think this is a nice spot for the Sooners. Anything under 7, I would lay it with Oklahoma.
Yeah, 2 ranked teams going at it, 22 Auburn, 11 Oklahoma. Going over to the Big Ten here, and again, not a traditional matchup, but at least Nebraska's been there for a number of years. Nebraska hosting Michigan, and Michigan's still ranked here. The Cornhuskers getting points. Cornhuskers still undefeated. Are you buying in on Nebraska, PJ?
I'm looking at the total, Gene. We collectively, I think, as sports fans, like to make jokes about some of these Big Ten matchups, right? We love the punts, the turnovers, the ugliness, the 10-7 type games. I think this is going to be one of those. I think the first 20 is going to win this game, so I'd look under 45.5. Two good defenses, great environment at Memorial Stadium. Michigan's also going to be without their coach. Ron Moore's suspended. This is the second game that he's serving, so Biff Poggi is taking over as the head coach, who's their coach for the Central Michigan game this past week. But I just, Matt Rule in these type of games, they tend to be low-scoring, ugly. He leans on his defense. If you can get a 3 with Nebraska, I would take them plus the 3. 2.5, I would still lean Huskers, but I'd stay away. Because I expect this to be a close game and a low scoring, I think 3 is really valuable, Gene, in this kind of game. So like under 45.5, you can find a 3. I'd take that with Nebraska.
PJ, we're not in draft season here yet, unless you're a Jet fan or a Dolphin fan, right? But one of the quarterbacks that I think if you're in need of a quarterback, you should put on radar from South Carolina, Lenoris Sellers, okay? He got concussed last week, and maybe that was the direct result. I didn't watch this game, but South Carolina losing to Vanderbilt, and now we don't know for sure, unless you know, like with PJ, what the status is for Sellers. So, is there any play at all when you don't know? When the star quarterback isn't there? Missouri is hosting Missouri 3-0, and they're giving 10 points to a South Carolina team.
So, Gene, earlier in the week, I bet this line at 13.5 because all signs are pointing to Sellers was being out. And now you look at some of these shops out there, and you got lines that are down to 9.5. So that would certainly tell me it's trending towards Sellers is playing. If you can still grab a 10, 10.5, which are out there, I would bet that with South Carolina. Even if they end up going with the backup, I think anything over 10 is a good bet. Certainly if Sellers plays, that game's probably going to close about 7, 7.5, somewhere in that range. But even if they go with the backup, Gene, I think because they have a full week to prep, knowing that either he's going to be the guy or whether they feel like Sellers is going to play, these type of games tend to be close. And a team like Missouri, who's not used to laying double digits in an SEC game, I usually like to fade those type of teams, right? This isn't Bama. This isn't Georgia. This isn't Texas. This is Missouri. They're used to being an underdog or a small favorite in all these SEC matchups. They're not used to laying big numbers. And South Carolina, we know with Beamer, they're good special teams, good defense. We'll see if Sellers end up playing. All this line movement tells me that it looks like he might, but even if he doesn't, I think they keep this thing close, and I think there's a chance they can win the game. So I do like South Carolina plus the points, especially if you can find anything over 10.
Yeah, we're talking to PJ Class, your host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network. PJ, I want to ask you about the Ravens Monday night. That's going to be a fun Monday night matchup. Want to ask you about tomorrow night, certainly Bills and Dolphins. There are other games in the NFL I would like to quiz you on. Here you have Green Bay as a road favorite going against Cleveland. Now, the chalky guy would say, oh, Cleveland, they don't have an offense, and Green Bay is all this. And I'm trying to hop inside your mind, PJ, of like a sharp here. Like, how would you play this game? Because from the outside, it certainly looks like, okay, this could be a joke, but that's not the way the NFL works. How do you view Green Bay as a road favorite in Cleveland?
Gene, so tell me if you remember this game, okay? A couple of years ago when San Francisco looked like they were going to go undefeated, right? McCaffrey was like the best running back in football.
They go to Cleveland and they lose.
It's exactly right.
Wow.
P.J. Walker was the quarterback, right? And do you remember San Francisco the week before played that Sunday night game against Dallas, and they beat them by 30, and all of us were just like, whoa, like who is beating this team? And I think a lot of us for the first 2 weeks of the season with Green Bay were like, I mean, man, the way that their defense is playing now with Parsons and They just look like absolute world beaters, maybe the best team in the NFC. But, Gene, there's just something about Cleveland, man, especially for these NFC teams when they go to that place and they're not used to it. The Browns have a good defense. That's not an easy place to play. I just think they're going to be able to muck up the game and keep it ugly. And it reminds me so much of that San Francisco game from a couple years ago. So, like you said, this is why we love the NFL. This is why Survivor is impossible, because you look at these types of games and you think it's going to be an easy Green Bay victory, and next thing you know, it's a massive upset. So we're due for some big upsets, Gene, at some point. As I look through the schedule, I think this could be the one this week. So I like Cleveland plus the points, but I'm calling my shot. I'm getting vibes from that Niner game from a couple years ago. It feels like the same thing. Jaden Reed's going to be out. They announced earlier this morning for the Packers, so they're down another receiver. I'll go with Flacco and the Brownies to maybe shock us, and I'll take them plus the points and money line against the Packers.
Yeah, and the fun thing about that is, could I see Green Bay, farting around the whole game, and then all of a sudden they get a late field goal to steal it? Sure, and you win nonetheless. Let me take a little detour here, PJ, because you brought up Survivor, and for some of the reasons you just kind of laid out, I'm like, I feel better. Like, we avoided this game. Like, no, not taking a team on the road when there are other options. We whittled it down to 2. What did you go with? I'll share mine first. We landed on Tampa Bay. I know it's a short week. I know the recency bias against the Jets, but ultimately, I just think the Jets are this team in transition. It's a Tampa home win. Seattle was the other one we were looking at, and I'm not sure what to make of the Saints just yet. The Saints seem to be, the team they're picking on. They seem to put up a little bit of a fight against the 49ers. Who's your best bet here for Survive in Advance this week?
Gene, can I be honest with you? I think if I end up going 17-0 this year in Survivor, and that'll never happen, but let's hope that it does, I think this might be one of the easiest weeks I've had choosing Survivor. I think it's maybe the quickest I've ever done a pick going with Survivor. I'm taking the Chiefs this week, Gene. I think the Chiefs against the Giants are absolutely the play. They're not losing that game. They're not going to 0-3. They have the Ravens next week, so they could be staring 0-4 in the face if they lose this game. And I understand, right, the Chiefs could still win 9, 10 games this season. People are maybe wanting to save them for later in the year. But you look at their schedule, and you just never know when the upset could come. Like, you're just not confident on maybe what that game that they lose where you're going to pick them. Whereas I look at this game and how demoralizing that loss must have been for the Giants against Dallas. I mean, they had that game like 3 different times. So, look, they're going to get up. It's Sunday Night Football against Kansas City, but the Chiefs are also going to get up. And, 0-2, 11% of the teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. Gene, 2% of teams that start 0-3 make the playoffs. So you can't go 0-3. I get the logic for Seattle. I get the logic for Tampa Bay. But, week 3 with these 0-2 teams, man, it's dangerous with how desperate they are. Tampa very easily could be 0-2 this season, and Baker's banged up. That was a physical game on Monday against Houston, a short week. Even though Tyrod is going to start, I think the Jets could give him a game. And Seattle, Gene, they won 3 games at home last year. They lost to San Francisco in their opening game. Like, we all think of Seattle as this great home field, and it is, but under Mike McDonald, they're just a much better road team. And look, with Sam Darnold, it would shock none of us if he has 3 picks on Sunday, right? That's just what he does. So I'm going with the Chiefs. I'm burning them. If I lose and they go 0-3, I'll pay to see it. But I really think that is a great play.
Yeah, the one thing, and I always say this, don't save. You brought this up with the Chiefs. I'm just worried about advancing in the next week. I bent that rule a little bit with Bills-Dolphins. We'll get to that because I know what's on the other end here for the Bills here. If I get by this week, okay, next week, easy. That's when we'll burn the Bills here. Texans and Jags, I thought, you want to talk about teams that had a chance to win. Well, number 1 on the list was the Giants, but man, Houston at the end, first and goal, get nothing on that from the 1. You do take a lead late, and then you can't hold on here. The Texans and Jacksonville, I don't know what to think of this game, PJ.
I like the Texans, Gene. 0-2. Again, I just gave you the stat. Teams that go 0-3, 2% of the time they make the playoffs. Must-win game for Houston. And, two tough games to start the season. I mean, Tampa Bay and the Rams might be two of the top 4 teams in the NFC this season. And, they were in both of those games. The Rams game was ugly, 14-9. Tampa, they had the lead going into the final minute. In Jacksonville, I'm just not there with the Jags, Gene. I kind of think the wrong team is favored. And when you combine the desperation with Houston and how badly they need this game, I like the Texans. There's some 2.5s that are starting to pop up there. So I think 2.5 is a really good bet on the Texans. I like them plus the points.
Boy, if you're an Eagles fan right now, you have to be loving life. You win on the Thursday, you get a nice, relaxing week 1. You could sit at home then, and then you follow that up with a win at Arrowhead. Now the Eagles get home game number 2 against the Rams in a playoff game, PJ, that I thought was decent last year. But do the Rams have enough? You mentioned they won ugly twice here. Who do you like in this matchup? Philly a small favorite.
I like Philly, Gene. I haven't bet it yet because I'm hoping for a 3 because I think a lot of people are going to be on the Rams. Just the Eagles haven't looked convincing. They're very Chief-like right now where they're winning all these games, but we want them to be as dominant as like the Bills are, the Ravens are. We want the flash. We want the 40-point games, but they're just winning their way and they're winning ugly. So we see an up-and-coming team like the Rams who are looking much more convincing. And I think people want to bet the road dog in this game. But, Gene, I'll give you some trends, man, that are just pretty impressive. Jalen Hurts in his career as a home favorite of 7 or less points, 15-2 against the spread. As a favorite of 5 or less points, he's a perfect 8-0 against the spread. So the Eagles are usually dominant in these type of games. The Rams are 9-2 in their last 11 games, and the only 2 losses have come to the Eagles. It's just a bad matchup for them. Saquon usually runs all over them. Stafford, obviously not a very mobile quarterback at this point, going up against that Eagles defensive line. I like Philly, man. I'm hoping we can get a 3, but even at 3.5, I'll take the Eagles.
PJ Glasser on the BetMGM network. Catch him every day, 1 p.m. every weekday. PJ, I like doing this exercise where before you look at the lines here, and there's always the look-ahead lines. So you just look at the schedule and you guess the lines. And if Ravens-Lions, Monday Night Football, okay, the Ravens usually good in prime time, and they're home. They have to be favored by not a lot. I'm like, 5? Really? Like 5? And, well, I've seen the line now go to 4.5 here. Your thoughts here, the Ravens playing for the second straight week at home, coming off a comfortable win over Cleveland?
I'm going to take the Ravens in the first half, Gene, -3. Since Lamar's been in the league, there's been nobody better against the spread in the first half, right? And that's why the Ravens usually blow these double-digit leads in the fourth quarter because they're usually always up at halftime. So I worry about like a Lions backdoor or the Ravens having a lead and the Lions coming back. Also, a part of me is just terrified that like both the Ravens and Chiefs could be 1-2 going into their game next week. Like I have that kind of thought in my head, so I'm scared that maybe the Lions pull off the upset. But Lamar's 24-2 against the NFC in his career. In his career on Monday Night Football, Gene, he has 22 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. You mentioned the Ravens are normally good in prime time. They're normally great in prime time and normally Monday Night Football. So these are normally spots where they play really well. I'd like them more if they were on the road because it's rare that they play home Monday night games. But, man, Lamar was built for the prime time, at least in the regular season. And the Ravens normally play really well against NFC teams. So I like them in the first half. I want to get in, get out, just absolutely be miserable as they make me sweat out the fourth quarter and likely collapse. But I'll take them in the first half -3.
PJ, finally, Bills and Dolphins, and this is the way I see it. And again, feeling should not come into this, but it has a deja vu feeling for me, for Buffalo, from this standpoint. Week 3 last year, Bills home on a primetime game. Granted, it wasn't a Thursday night, it was a Monday night, but a team from Florida limping up. And, like, what is going on here? There's obviously some problems, some talent there, but that was Jacksonville, and the Bills cleaned their clock. The Dolphins haven't won in Buffalo outright since Rex Ryan was the head coach of the Bills. And maybe people are saying, well, at 12.5, there's some value. Look at that game last year. It came right down to the end in a field goal. But Granted, 12.5 is a lot here, PJ. So what are your thoughts here on a play, whether it's the spread or something else, Bills and Dolphins tomorrow night?
No strong thoughts on the game, Gene. What I will say is if you like Buffalo, I would just bet alts, man. Like bet 20.5, 24.5, 28.5. Like I think the Bills could potentially win by 40 in this game. It could maybe be not to the extent of what that Raiders-Chargers game was when Staley got fired and the Raiders won by like 70 or whatever it was. But, Gene, we talked about it before the year. It felt like the Dolphins were just a deck of cards just waiting for just somebody to come in and just knock them over. Like you could just feel it. Like they were a glass house just ready to get torn down. And it's on the verge of being real ugly. And you look at how this thing is setting up, short week, primetime game. If the Bills go out there and they get off to a start like they did against the Jets, and it's 20-3 in the blink of an eye, I mean, that could turn into 35-3. That could turn into 45-10. Like I think it could get ugly. So the Dolphins could cover this game because 12.5 is a lot. Maybe it's 0-2, desperation. They're trying to save their season. But then I could also see the other side of it, and I think I'd rather bet that because, Gene, honestly, I think that's the more likely outcome is the Bills just kill them. So I would just look at alt spreads with Buffalo, man. I think McDaniel, he is a dead man walking at this point. It's only a matter of time before they move on.
Well, it's week 3. We haven't found an instance of this, PJ. Week 3 in the NFL, and there really isn't an obvious candidate to take over as an interim head coach. But say it does go that way. And you have the extra time to prepare for the Dolphins' next game. By the way, that's a Monday night game against the Jets. Whoa. Yeah, brutal. PJ, could we actually see a coaching change in Miami following this game right here and now?
I mean, I think we could. Again, it depends on how bad the loss is. But yeah, Gene, I think you could because, like you said, you get the extended week, and if we're just all watching the game like we were for that Chargers-Raiders game where I was talking about, where you could clearly see the Chargers were quitting and like they had to make a move, if it's one of those type games, I think so. If the Dolphins fight, the Bills are obviously talented, they're better, and it's just like you're outclassed, you're outmanned, like you can't do anything about it. I think he's fine, but if the game gets as ugly as I think there's a chance it could, Gene, I would not be surprised if they get rid of McDaniel after the game.
PJ Glass, your host of Send It In. Tell everybody about Send It In on the BetMGM network and where else they can catch your work, PJ.
Yeah, Gene, our show streams every day 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch, on YouTube, live on Twitter as well at the BetMGM network, Monday through Friday. And, man, this time of year we're just talking football, NFL, college football. Got October playoff baseball coming around the corner, so we'll dive into that. But basically a daily interactive show where people listen, they chime in with any best questions that they have, and we just talk about everything going on in the world of sports. Yeah,
and good that your Ravens bounced back after that loss in Week 1, PJ. Appreciate your time as always, PJ, and let's get some winners here.
Absolutely, Gene. Thanks for having me. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, PJ. PJ Glasser from the BetMGM network. There's so much happening in the closing minutes of Week 1 games, and I wasn't totally focused on Miami in New England. But what happened in that game? Now, if you were watching the Bills game, they're like, okay, we're going to go over to Miami and New England. And forget who the announcer is. Says, was it Eagle? Regardless. Hey, Miami is just taking a lead. I'm like, okay. And then they switch over to him like, well, no, they didn't.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't because, well, it was just one of those timing things. Yeah, they did, and then they looked at it. Oh, yeah, Achan's foot is out. So
way out, by the way.
Way out. Okay, no big deal. You've got the ball. You're in enemy territory, plus territory. You're good, right? So while they do that, they take a TV timeout. Okay, so you're coming back. It's 1st and 10. Miami after that lengthy delay. And they can't get the play in on time. What did you do the last 3 minutes? Like, that's the consolation prize. Like, here, you didn't get the touchdown, but you know what? This actually might work out better because you can reset, burn clock down, and score closer to the end, and you didn't get the play in time. 1st and 15. It gets worse. They do it again. It's a delay. For what on earth? And then a little check down, and then there was they end up going then 4 downs and turning the ball over on downs, and that was it. So that whole sequence by Miami, like if you can Mike McDaniel then kind of running his coaches a little bit under the bus. You're the head coach. That's on you. Ultimately, that's on you. Sean McDermott, 13 seconds. Ultimately, that's on you. And that is just some simple things. Now, does that get everybody to wake up and realize, oh, my gosh, our season's on the line. We got to go play hard in Buffalo.
Right? Like, is that to your point, is that the wake-up call, or is that the send it in, we're good, let's try something new here?
I feel like this is Jacksonville last year. Like, they're coming up, and, like, it'll be – and it's refreshing to hear PJ say, if you're going to bet this, like – tease it up.
Do it at plus money, right?
Yeah, please tease it up. He's in Buffalo by 40. Like, okay, like that would be
barely hyperbole as well.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure. Like, if it gets to that point, Al Michaels will be very, very grumpy if he has no game to call and there's penalties in the second half. Things you can watch for tomorrow night.
Gotta feel good to be a Bills fan right now.
Indeed. We've got Brandon Tobin from the other side, WQAM on Miami. Tobin and Leroy will be joining us here at the bottom of the next hour. We have time for your calls next at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. In for Mike Danger, that is Tim Schneider. My name is Gene Battaglia here on the Fan Rochester.
Streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The PGA Championship will be returning to Oak Hill Country Club in the year 2035. It'll mark the fourth straight decade the major has come to Rochester. And Oliver, Matt Milano are out tomorrow night. The injury report here on a Wednesday lists Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson, all questionable for the Dolphin game. Now, if he plays, Taron Johnson knows run support is key.
Just how they're running the ball, they run the ball well, and they try to have like a pretty balanced offense, you know what I'm saying? But they are running the ball a lot. I mean, I feel like it just comes down to us, just making sure we're focused on what we need to do, not so much on them, because at the end of the day, we got to play good football.
Coverage tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock here on The Fan. Khalil Mack goes on injured reserve. The Cubs in the postseason, they clinch a berth with a win today over the Pirates. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
If somebody tells you something and says, hey, you're going to love this, but you got to keep your mouth shut. Can you do it? Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you today. Mike Danger will be back tomorrow. Well, this time exactly tomorrow we won't be on. It'll be the Bills Radio Network. So we'll have a 1-hour show tomorrow, as we jokingly call it, the heavy lift. So Terrible Take Timmy in today. And if you're like me, either you saw it break last night after the evening news or you saw it first thing this morning, but yes, Oak Hill is getting a major. That's something we all can get behind. It's great for our town, gives everybody a little civic pride. It helps our economy, and it makes us like a major league sports town. It really does. It's a major by the definition of it. Yeah, in credit, Mike Caroline and Dan Fates with breaking that story last night. Now it's official and everything. And so Tim comes on the air today, Tim Schneider, who joins us, and says, yeah, I knew this, but I was sworn to secrecy. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And then you told me the story off air, and I can say, okay, that I know this person, and I don't know how that person would have found out, but that person is a reliable source.
Yes.
And you were a man of your word. You could have been headlines across the nation, Tim Schneider, but you didn't want to throw a friendship away by doing something like that.
Yeah, so I don't know how this person knew, but I do know that if it were to come out, it would be known exactly where it came from based on where I received it from. And I don't know. I could have had my Adam Schefter moment, but I didn't want to, like, once you lose a source, you no longer have a source, you know?
But then by our association, you couldn't have said, hey, Gene, I've got the story. I can't tell you how I got this.
I think we would have been too close to the fire. I think, like, if I served it up to you for you to beat Fates and Catalana by 2 hours, it still would have been like, oh, you're connected too closely to me, who's connected to who I am connected to, to where then it becomes, we know who told this guy, who told this guy. So then here we were. For 2 hours, I sat on it. I only knew 9 o'clock last night, but I still knew before it hit the Twitter waves.
Isn't that the coolest feeling, though?
It is cool to know
it's
stuff.
Like when you find out, and it doesn't have to be sports, but anything in life, like good or bad. It's not cool when it's bad, but that's always like, oh, when you have this piece of information that people would love to know about.
It is a little bit of a burden to bear because you don't want to slip up or say, like, if you let down the person that is giving you that information, you cannot be trusted by really anybody at that point, right? Like,
yeah.
So I know a lot of stuff about a lot of things that I just have to hold on to, and I'm really good at it. I am a steel trap in that regard, but it's also like, what if I screw up?
Well, you have a different role outside of here where you come in and you're part-time radio, terrible take Timmy, but then you also have this job where you meet with athletes and you're going through the protocols, and the athletes don't view you, Tim, as radio guy. They view you as Tim the businessman, and you're here to do a job. And I would imagine in that context, you might hear and learn some things that really probably like that's off limits.
Yeah, there's some things like even across the street here and with the Red Wings, like I know things before maybe not the team itself or the organization or ownership knows, but like I know every once in a while somebody's getting called up if I have a meeting or a signing or however you want to phrase it with these guys and they're getting called up, but it's before the Nationals break the news. They're like, hey, don't tell anybody. Or I had one with the Mets a year or two ago. I get an email from that player's agent. It's like, don't say anything, but we're going to have to reschedule this because he's going to Citi Field. And it's
that's
like, all
right. Like sometimes it's spur of the moment. Other times that's pre-planned, and that's good on the agent that they reached out to you for something like that. Like what would probably like in our show, the biggest story we learned was actually concerning the Red Wings, but it didn't come from the Red Wings. Like when the Red Wings don't want to tell you something, they won't tell you, okay?
Sure.
That's what most organizations were. But like there was real concern, big time concern, that when Major League Baseball said, get the heck out of here, PCL, International League, he flicked away all these organizations. We are running minor league baseball. Like they knew all better. But by doing that, there were some, lowball teams that, okay, you're not making money, you're gone.
Batavia.
Yeah. And then everything was kind of up, and there was speculation that the Red Wings would no longer be a AAA team, that they would go down to AA. And the reason this was lining up was, hey, there's a new AAA team in Minnesota, and the Twins are leaving. And people were really concerned. And then a reliable source pulled me aside and said, don't worry, the Nationals are coming in.
Lucky us.
And called over the Red Wings. They didn't know. We ran with it anyways. We were like, nope, the Nationals are coming, everybody. That they were in Fresno. Made no sense. Of course the Nationals would be like, hey, yeah, we would love to be in the same time zone and not have our prospects go across the country. I don't even think Fresno now is a AAA team. I think maybe they went down, whatever the case may be. And that's probably like the biggest one where somebody pulled me aside. Wasn't a, hey, you can't keep a secret, kind of thing. It was, hey, you should know this. People shouldn't have to worry. So, like, look, our DMs are always open if you need things. We were trying to get to the bottom of the Nighthawk story first, but I thought at least we kept the conversation going.
I'm glad that worked out, though.
Yeah, I'm thrilled it worked out. I think that's important for our community. I think it adds vibrancy on a Saturday night to downtown Rochester. And you know what? The team's going to be good now.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't bad; they were bad before, but now, okay, you're going to have an ownership group that's going to really, okay, this is what we do, and we're here to win games.
Reinvigorate that natural rivalry between the three-time defending champion Buffalo Bandits. And as an aside, Fresno actually dropped all the way down to single A. They are the affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. But yeah, it's nice to know things, but it's also you got to be very careful with who you share that information with once you know things.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that's all good. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can join us anytime here on the show. We've got Brandon Tobin coming up at the bottom of this hour. Tim, I've gone through all these exercises. My mind's numb.
How can I help?
Like trying to figure out, all right, should Bills fans be concerned? Should they trip up? These next three games, something will have, if I'm lumping them all together. You're home Sunday at 1 against the Saints? Come on, you're not getting outdueled by Spencer Rattler.
I think it's entirely fair to be cautiously optimistic knowing that you are now the hunted. But, yeah, there's almost no chance you lose to the Dolphins. Almost no chance you lose to the Saints. A little bit, but probably not much of a chance you lose to the Patriots. Falcons, you may get Bijan Robinson. That's possible.
Yeah.
But, okay, so like you are allowed to go like 14-3. It's okay to be dominant and lose once a month or so. They're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it is a fun exercise to like looking at the schedule. There's not a whole lot of grenades here. Sure, they might beat themselves. They may make some mistakes. They may have to sweat it out. There's going to be certain games where it's like, oh, we should have won, kind of like week 1. McDermott not happy after beating one of the AFC contenders by a single point. To me, I think that sets the tone for the entire season. Winning 41-40 against a Super Bowl contender in Baltimore. McDermott saying that's not good enough. I'm not even a Bills fan. I love that for the Bills. When the coach says, yes, we beat a good team, we could have beaten them by more. And now you get to go on this parade of just kind of mediocre opponents.
I think we've made that clear. He didn't say that.
No, but it was implied.
He didn't say, like, basically we need to work. He was just resetting. Didn't like the first 3.5. You're not going to beat teams on a regular basis. You just wanted to set the tone for week 2, and everybody dialed in on week 2. And the Bills have the thing about teams like the Bills and teams like the Chiefs. They're used to the unexpected schedule. For some teams, this would throw teams off. Like, oh my gosh, you got to play on a Thursday night. The Bills don't have to worry about this. What's interesting to me, Taron Johnson listed as questionable, but yet he was available to the media. We played you the soundbite. I think Taron Johnson goes in this game. I think Taron Johnson, with Tommy Rono hinted in the game, like, well, with the Dolphins coming up, maybe you save him for the Dolphins. And I think that would be the case here, because if there is one X factor from Miami, it's not Tyreek Hill. It's certainly not Waddle. It's Devin Achane. I think Achane would be the guy. And if you're going to bring up somebody and run support, that's Johnson. Johnson sticks his nose in on everything. So put him out there for this game. Do the Bills elevate Jordan Poyer? Matt Perino joined us yesterday. And
maybe just to get him a game, and it's a primetime game by technicality.
See, this is where I'm used to the Saturday schedule. You learn who's elevated on a Saturday afternoon. So if we're going by that, maybe by the time we get off, we will find out who the Buffalo Bills are elevating from this game up to the 53. You can elevate the 2 guys. Now, one guy for sure, Zion Logue. Zion Logue was a man against the Jets. Sack, also had a batted down pass. That was all great stuff from Zion Logue. And the fact that the Bills right now have only 3 healthy defensive tackles, I would think Zion Logue gets his second promotion this week. You're only allowed 2 before you got to, if you promote a third time, then guess what? You're going up to the 53 full time. You promote him the second time now and then worry about that later. The question is, what do you do if Cam Lewis isn't available and Taron Johnson isn't 100%?
You pray to the Dolphins gods and just do it anyway.
I think Jordan Poyer as a tackler still can be fine, dropping him down in the box. I don't know that for sure. How do I not know that for sure? I haven't seen him. All right. We haven't seen him. All right. We're just basing this off of history. And last year's history, not so good, but at least can he tackle? Sure. Should be the bare minimum for this game. 4 o'clock tomorrow on the Fan Rochester. We'll talk a little more Dolphins coming up in a little bit with Brandon Tobin, WQAM in Miami. Congratulations to the Cubs. They are in the postseason, and that's not a surprise. What is a surprise to me in the National League, what are the Dodgers doing? Their bullpen is falling apart. If the Padres won last night, that lead would have been down to a game. But even if the Dodgers win, there's so much of a gap now between the Dodgers and the Brewers and the Phillies. Something would have to go wrong. None of us had the Dodgers, Tim, playing potentially in the wild card round. Yes, they would host. And say it is the Mets. They get it would be Mets at Dodgers. And I'm like, okay. And Michael Florio joined us yesterday. He's like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's a 3-game series. Anything can happen in game 1, and then all of a sudden the pressure's on in game 2. I guess that's true. What's the bigger story here? Is it in the National League? Is it the Dodgers falling apart? Is it the Brewers we're not really giving any credit to, Tim?
I think, the Brewers are having an unreal season, and so are the Cubs, really. The Cubs are right behind the Brewers. They're still in the mix to win that division. There's a big hill to climb with 2 weeks to go. But I think, honestly, it might be the Padres are the reason. Like, the Dodgers are going to be a playoff team. I don't think that's really even up for debate other than them not mathematically having clinched yet. But the Padres breathing down their neck and putting the pressure on them, I think, is the biggest story, at least as far as the Dodgers and where they're seated goes. Because if the Padres pass them, the Dodgers become a wild card team, and that is going to be a nightmare for whoever that 3 or 4 seed is.
Right. So that brings me back to the Cubs. Can you imagine a Dodgers-Cubs?
First round?
Wow.
Makes it exciting.
Yeah. Cubs-Padres is first-round excitement, too.
Yes, but, like, people don't care about the Padres because San Diego. But the team is filthy. I don't think the nation is in on San Diego.
Okay, fair enough from a TV standpoint, but you are in the sports bar here. I'm guessing if you're listening right now, you're a sports fan, we'd be into that. Is that fair?
I am, yes,
Yeah,
I
that
am
would be
very
fair.
into it. But as a casual, not baseball writer, I think the Padres are just, they're good now, and an afterthought.
That's why, like, if you love we had this in the NBA. We had Indiana and Oklahoma City, and like, okay, like, yeah, we've heard of these players, ho-hum. It was an okay series. I was expecting something more from a basketball standpoint. Some of those games weren't close. Watch, we're going to have the same thing for the World Series. We're going to have Milwaukee and Seattle.
I don't think Seattle's actually good, but it would be fun.
Their pitching is excellent.
They've got Wu and Gilbert, and they've got Raleigh doing some unprecedented things.
They pilfered the Diamondbacks, and they've got Rodriguez. They've got pieces there, Tim. I want to see them. Maybe I'm just trying to will that to happen.
I would like to see them miss it for Cleveland to get in. Let Houston win the division because they are hateable.
No. Like, let's Houston miss it altogether.
That's fine, too.
We got to get to Brandon Tobin. WQAM, what is next with the Miami Dolphins? We'll explore that coming up. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider today here on the Fan Rochester.
Rochester Sports Update.
Big news for our town. The PGA Championship returning to Oak Hill Country Club in the year 2035. It will be the 8th time the club has hosted a major. Ed Oliver, Matt Milano are out tomorrow night. The Wednesday injury report lists Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson all as questionable. Josh Allen saying nice things about the Dolphin defense.
Well, I think they're playing a lot better than maybe what their record shows. Their front over there is filled with a lot of guys that can get after the quarterback. So we got to be on our P's and Q's and understand what they're going to try to do to us.
Bills and Dolphins, our coverage tomorrow will begin at 4 o'clock here on The Fan. Brendan Tobin from WQAM in Miami will join us next. Cubs are in the postseason. They beat the Pirates today. They clinch a berth. The Yankees tonight, once again in Minnesota. The Mets taking on the Padres. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
There's a lot of crazy stats about Bills Dolphins, one of them, and I don't know exactly how Brendan Tobin, how old he is, and granted, I am this old. That when I was a kid, the Dolphins always beat up on the Bills. Don Shula would come up. The Dolphins went an entire decade. Think about that. 20 games, 20 wins over Buffalo in the 70s. And if the Bills end up sweeping Miami this year, that 20-game lead in the season series will have evaporated. The season, or I should say the all-time series, will be tied. Miami with just a 2-game lead now over Buffalo. Brandon Tobin. Brandon, I've been thinking about this, where to start with you on the Dolphins here. Thank you for your time, by the way. Brendan Tobin, our guest here, WQAM in Miami. Brendan, did you see this sort of coming with the Dolphins right out of the gate?
It was always looming, and especially I think the national opinion was that the Dolphins were kind of headed for disaster. And I think you guys, how excited everybody gets at training camp. Like, you get optimism, you get a lot of positivity spun, and they finished off the Jalen Ramsey trade and the Jonnu Smith, and basically only the Tyreek Hill thing was there of drama. But everybody was pretty pumped up about at least, the young guy they were bringing in. But that week one was just so demoralizing. And I think they couldn't write a more nightmare game than they had for that kind of a week one performance. So, it definitely was a sobering game that, man, this could be, just the end of the road for this entire construction of build around Mike McDaniel and Tua. I think that, people who were hopeful like me that they were going to be able to do some things, especially with the defense, which has been really, really poor so far to start the season, would be able to even carry him a little bit, but that has not been the case. And I would say it's as dire as it's been with these guys, and not even I thought it could get to this point this quickly. Maybe later, at some point later in the season, but it's really bad right now.
I mean, McDaniel is the guy that people like to pile on right now, and sometimes you just get the soundbite where you're like, okay, in order to win the game, you got to win the game. You're like, what is he talking about? But I don't know if he deserves the lion's share of the blame. Like, what about this roster that Greer, the GM, has put together? How much blame would you send in his direction, Brandon?
A ton. It's on. But I think the thing that's almost frustrating is, Chris Greer has been in the organization for 20 years. He's gone up in power and he's gotten more football say as the years have gone on. And there's been no playoff wins in his entire time here. And I'm not saying he's responsible for all of them, but this philosophy that he was always like this guy where his most redeeming quality was he was very compatible with whoever came in here, whatever coach was going to be here. So once, but then it really frayed with Brian Flores. And now, with Mike McDaniel, he was even making some points this year. He's like, oh, maybe I got to defer less to the coaches, kind of like trying to skate off some of the roster decisions. And we're like, man, we all know what your problem is. His biggest flaw out of anything is he doesn't really believe in injury-prone players, which is crazy. Like, he'll just make these signings and close his eyes and hope for the best. And, he's got a offensive line that once again is in tatters. The right side's hurt because, he signed a guy off a torn Achilles and a guy in Austin Jackson who had injury concerns coming into the league, has injury concerns the whole entire time. But he kind of he doesn't care. Like, he's hopeful that it always is going to work out for him, and it rarely has.
Yeah, Brandon, here in Western New York with the Bills, I mean, Terry Pegula isn't front-facing. I mean, it's been years since he actually, talked and took questions from the local media, but he's still involved. He's still around. If you watch Hard Knocks, you see him asking questions or whatever. Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, how involved is he at this point?
It's hard to say how involved he is at this point. I do think it's less, but I think what's been definitely noticeable over the years is he does not speak to the media anymore. He used to do it at least once a year at training camp, and he's had some real foot and mouth moments. Thinking that Joe Philbin's going to be the next Don Shula. He said that Chad Henney's going to be the next Marino. Very optimistic things. When LeBron James left the Heat, he riled up that franchise by saying, "Oh, no one's going to care about the Heat anymore. This has always been a Dolphins town." And you guys owned the team for this many years. He's never had a playoff win under his ownership. And so he's kind of skulked back into the background and, kind of just all he's really done is he stopped talking about the football team and he started building up Hard Rock Stadium with giving it a canopy and bringing F1 down here and getting Super Bowls back down here because it's really the only thing he can control. He's really good at building things other than football teams. And I think the last line of embarrassment really was for him was the whole Brian Flores thing because, they seemed like they had concocted having Sean Payton and Tom Brady come to the Dolphins all for it to blow up in their face because Brian Flores dropped his lawsuit and they got busted tampering and had a pick taken away. And everything has just been very, very clunky under his ownership. One thing that was noticeable, though, the lone media that he used to do, he used to come on the last, he come on one of the preseason broadcasts, the preseason broadcasters, and chum it up for 10 minutes. He didn't even do that this year. So it kind of tells you how he's not very proud of what's going on with his franchise right now. I have some empathy for him. He had doled out a lot of contracts last year. He's never been shy to pony up the money. But I think he's a little bit perturbed that every guy that he gave an extension to either got hurt or didn't live up to their deal.
Brandon Tobin, WQAM in Miami. Check him, Tobin Leroy, every weekday, 10 to 2 inside the Odyssey app. Brandon, sticking with Ross, the owner, and I kind of – I want to ding him there for the whole Brady and Peyton thing, but that happens a lot in sports. The Dolphins just got caught. I think that's part of it, laying the groundwork, and they got busted on that. You want an owner that, okay, I'm going to at least go out there and get a name or do whatever it takes. What's your sense here? And I'm kind of jumping ahead in the story here. Let's say it goes as bad as we kind of expect here for the Dolphins. I mean, do you think the fan base is going to demand a big name or just go through the process appropriately? What's your sense about what would be next here in Miami?
Yeah, well, here's the thing with Ross. I mean, it's first of all, the Sean Payton thing, the funny thing about it, it's not the first time. He got the same thing happened to him when he had Tony Sparano under contract and he got caught trying to fly to California to get Jim Harbaugh, and he got busted on that. And then Harbaugh kind of backed off of it because he didn't want to look like a guy gunning for somebody else's job. So he's had multiple of those. Look, I respect him trying to get the best guy. That is what an owner wants. It's just usually when you have all the resources, the only thing is to not get caught. That's what you're supposed to not do. You look at Steve Ballmer and the Kawhi Leonard thing going on. It's hey, we all assume these things are happening. Don't get embarrassed and don't get exposed. As far as who they could go with, that was actually a great question. It's one of the things we asked this week because we all assume they're going to get fired, especially Mike McDaniel. I don't know about Chris Greer. I almost have to believe that when I see it because he's just held on for so long. But you have fans down here who are saying John Gruden, go get it. I'm because John Gruden hasn't had a winning season since 2008. I don't really understand the appeal there, but I do think there's not these football gurus out there anymore you could just hand the keys off to the organization unless there's somebody that Ross could poach from somebody else. So I am genuinely curious to see it because he's done nothing but hire first-time head coaches his entire ownership. And so I do think that if he does, he's going to probably go with somebody with more experience. Is that, getting Belichick out of North Carolina or somebody else? I don't really know. I think that we're going to we're going to let the debris settle, and then we'll all kind of get to that. But yeah, we were kind of kicking around names. We're like, man, there's no real steadying force, because honestly, somebody mentioned Nick Saban. We're like, well, we've been there, done that. We can't go back to that well. So it's probably going to be the one guy I think that a lot of fans would go at to be a first timer is your guy Joe Brady, and that's because he's a South Florida kid. I think that people would kind of dig that story, but you're kind of going back to the well of offensive young guru. Would you want to do that? They've done that with Gase. They've done that with McDaniel. Would they go back to that well again? It feels like they'd lean more experience if they want to, but I just don't know who the name is that gets anybody's juices flowing down here.
Yeah, Brady took his name out of the contention for the Saints job, and maybe he knew he wasn't going to get it, or maybe he just knew he was going the Ben Johnson route, going, all right, I'm going to go where somebody, at least I can line myself up with a quarterback. If I can kind of go off the road here for a second, because you brought up Belichick, and I think if you picked up the phone and say, hey, Bill, would you? Yes, I would love to come down and talk to you. In a second, for various reasons. Are you a little surprised that he didn't get a nibble at all beyond the Falcons job, or really was it kind of the whole sideshow thing there that why Belichick finds himself out of the NFL today?
No, I'm definitely surprised. I think that you do that much winning in the NFL, even if it looked bad without Tom Brady, you got to think that some organization would hand the keys over just to trust you. I mean, I remember when they did that here with Bill Parcells, and he hadn't won anything in 30 years, and everybody was fawning, oh, he's God's gift to football, he's going to fix it. So I don't know if it's just become, people are less inclined to believe in the football czar anymore, and it's just become, find the hip young kid who can do it. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I do think that there's a chance Ross is going to go experience. We talked about the Sean Payton thing. So like, it definitely was his lean, right? Like, he didn't want to go young with this. It just blew up in their face, and they needed to find another plan, which was fix Tua. And that feels like it's kind of run its course with the Dolphins QB. So I couldn't rule it out that he'd sniff around that. Belichick does have a place down here, but you also got to wonder, like, what has he heard in ownership circles, because it does feel like Belichick's burned a lot of bridges there as well.
In order for McDaniel, say this inevitably ends up with him not being the Dolphins head coach, where does he have to improve to get it's tough to get a second chance in this league? Because Brandon, my opinion, McDaniel, when he came in, I'm like, wow, this is different. This actually might work. He seems to be, speaking a language to this generation, and this approach seems to be working. He's building something, and then whether it's the two injuries, whether it's the losing, this guy right now seems a shell of what he was before. So, two-part question: where does he have to improve, and where do you think it went wrong here for him in mind?
Well, I think what went wrong for him is, last year when Tua got hurt, he's so synonymous with Tagovailoa and revamping him. But when Tua got hurt and he really didn't have a backup quarterback at all to step in there and win a couple of games, I think a lot of people lost faith. Like, hey, you can't lean on the run game. You have nothing here. There's no answers. It was all just Tua. Now I know Mike had a big hand in getting Tua on track and getting his money and all that, but I think it shook his confidence a little bit in running a team. I think that some of the big name players on the team looked around and like, oh, this guy doesn't really have the answer for us, especially on the defensive side. I think that probably bled into whatever happened with Jalen Ramsey. And so I think when Mike takes stock of this, if this does come to an end, he's just got to figure out truly what his philosophies are that he believes in. He was asked this week by Marcel Louis-Jacques from ESPN about hey, what is your culture? And this dude, because I cut up every Mike McDaniel press conference for the pregame, and it's torture. But he was asked, what is your culture? And he went on for 2 minutes and just didn't have an answer. And you're in year 4. And I think that's the problem right now. I think he's a guy that just is a little lost on what philosophies actually work for him. I think the guy has a lot of smart ideas, and I think he does have, some creativity. Everybody says it. I don't think they're just saying that. I think a lot of people have tried to glom onto his motion ideas and all that. I think the guy can be a good play caller, but to take the reins of an organization again, I think he I think he just needs to know, like, all right, what are the things I believe in when it comes to running people? And then, I think he's got to get more people from the jump that are his guys. He did come into a bit of a weird situation with the former defensive coordinator stuck around from Flores' coaching staff the first year. Then he had Fangio. That was a disaster. Fangio didn't really like being here. And then he had to have 3 defensive coordinators in 3 years. So I think that rubbed some of the defensive players the wrong way either, even though they weren't the biggest Fangio fans. So I think I think people, running the people of an organization, he has a bigger challenge with than just knowing the football. And, that can happen with growth. I mean, honestly, like when Dan Campbell was down here as an interim guy, I think everybody kind of thought the opposite. Like, oh, he can run and rally truth, but does he have the philosophies right to run the team yet? And we saw what he's grown into, a really good coach. So I think that can happen, but he's going to probably have to go to a team and have them atop the league in offense again before he gets another shake.
Trading Tyreek Hill, I'm sure it's easier said than done. A contract, I'm sure, but then you have this other issue with, things that were said in a divorce proceeding. Does this get done? Do you see Hill playing on a different team before the trade deadline?
I thought from the start of the offseason, I never really understood why they stuck with it, because it just felt like, hey, when he left the field last year in the final game, I know that he played all the year all hurt, and I give him credit for that. And he did it, and it just kind of, he was at his wit's end with it. And he had a very disappointing productive season, but I think, I think they probably should have moved on them, but they were very oddly swift to decide we're not trading him. And I didn't understand why. There has to be some reason why they felt the need to go there. And it was either they just didn't feel the offense could succeed without him, or they just didn't think they could recoup anything close to what he is as a player. I think Tyreek Hill is going to blow up this year if things don't get better. I think that, Tua's missed him twice this season on things that should have been, on throws that should have been touchdowns. And he hasn't exactly been calm with his demeanor on the sideline. That's not been Tyreek's style. Like, the one thing I'll say is, like, this is all kind of new stuff for Tyreek from a football standpoint. He's been the model football citizen for the Dolphins, at least publicly. He's not a guy who whines about his touches. He hasn't been a guy that's whined about anything publicly. So this is all kind of new territory for the Dolphins and Tua. And don't mind you, like, Tua did kind of call him out in training camp. So you wonder, like, how much he's going to take that all lying down. So I feel like if things go bad, it's going to be an inevitability that they got to cut bait with him. And they probably should have seen that coming and gotten a better offer. From the stuff off the field, that is a concern for sure. Because look, Tyreek Hill has a lot of baggage off the field, and whether it's a fight at a marina or disagreements with his estranged spouse, like, there's something, or his house getting set on fire for mysterious reasons. This is something that's, like, popped up every year he's been with the Dolphins. It's just at one point he was breaking records and people overlooked it more, and now the team stinks, and so this stuff always gets a bigger spotlight when you're not winning football games.
Yeah, just 2 years ago, Tua the leading passer, Tyreek Hill the leading receiver in the NFL, and here we are. Brandon, last one on the Dolphins. How do you see this playing out? Do you think Miami gives Buffalo a game tomorrow night?
The thing I'm honestly just worried about, I could see, I know you guys got some defenders out, so, maybe there's a chance that this is a shootout and the Dolphins lose. That's the only way I see it being close. I don't see this being a low-scoring game. But, I mean, you know what the record is Josh has against this team, and I just saw Daniel Jones do whatever he wanted to them 2 weeks ago. And I think that's been the biggest thing is, hey, this is the Dolphins team. They got a lot of pass rush ability. They got Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Matthew Judon, and it just hasn't had that impact. Zach Sealer, who got a big money, and I think everybody's a big fan of. He's kind of the leader of that defense. He's got rookies next to him on the defensive line. He doesn't have Calais Campbell. So they really just haven't gotten any pressure. They haven't been able to stop the run. And so just worry about, like, hey, can they keep James Cook and Josh Allen off the field for any meaningful period of time? We haven't seen it with our eyes yet. So I don't love the Dolphins' chances going, not only just based on history, but just how this team is lining up this season. It just doesn't line up. They are getting a couple guys back who have been banged up. They'll get their nose tackle Benito Jones back, which should help a little bit on defense. But it's in got to see it to believe it mode for me to think the Dolphins are going to go into Buffalo and win on short rest.
Last one here, Brendan, and again, it's so weird up here because we love hockey. It's the same ownership, Pagula, and the Sabres' longest drought, tied with the Jets in pro sports. They can't get out of their own way. Give us some hope here, because there was a time where nobody was going to Panther games, and now they've become the model franchise on many different levels. Like, how did things turn around for Florida? And I would assume you like their chances here to be in the mix for making it 3 in a row.
Yeah, it was funny. I was at Panthers Media Day today, and so I got to sit down with a bunch of the guys, and we sat down with Alexander Barkov today, and you could just already see, like, that dude's, he's very, like, he liked the idea when I brought up 3-peat to him. Like, you kind of see the eyes light up, like, that's going to mean something to him. And the fact that Bill Zito is able to get all these guys to take the discount to stay down here, look, I'm not going to lie, guys. Like, it's great living down here, especially in the winter months when this sport's going on. But I just think that they all just seem to be so in lockstep with how to play their style and how to break teams down. But I think the biggest thing is you got to find the right guys to believe in. Like, this team was a run and gun team. Then they make the Matthew Tkachuk trade, and they become a more physical team because they saw their style get kind of snuffed out, like a lot of what Edmonton was doing, who they've beaten down in the last Stanley Cup. So I think it's just about, like, you got to find your right philosophy. And Bill Zito has gotten these guys to all buy in. The one thing that it all hinges on that could be the deterrent is, like, Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be 37 this year. Is there a chance he falls off? But, I mean, as a guy who knows Bob pretty well, like, he's a maniac. He's, works out in an insane amount of time, prepares his body, does gymnastics to stay flexible because he's not a very tall goalie. And so I don't see that fall off happening. They very much seem like they'll have another chance. They play in a very tough division, so that's always that always presents challenges. But they kind of had the hard road last year, and they were able to get it done.
Tell everybody you host a show with Leroy Horde, where they can catch it in the Odyssey app and what they can expect on the show there, Brennan.
Yeah, we're on 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every single day. You guys can get us on the Odyssey app. We're also live on our YouTube page, 104.3 WQAM, if anybody wants to tune in there. And I also host our station's pregame coverage. So if anybody wants some road perspective at some point when you guys are on commercial break, you guys can flip on over there. Tomorrow we get going at 4 p.m. So we'll be on from 4 to kick off.
At least you're not taking calls after the game. Or are you?
Well, that would be easy. I could kick my feet up, and I could just – let me tell you something. That's the one thing is sports radio has not been hard these last 2 weeks at all. Like, you want to talk about the difference between July and week 2 after your team is 0-2, it's basically in pilot mode right now. They can – I probably don't even need to say anything with how much the fans are pissed off down here.
Well, Brandon, thanks very much. Good luck in the pregame show, and let's do this again later in the season. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks, Brendan Tobin from WQAM in Miami. It's funny. I had to get the Panthers in there. It just doesn't seem right that it's hockey season. The Sabres opened up camp today, and I'm seeing all the Sabre guys tweeting out stuff, and it's like,
And they're already hurt.
Yeah.
They're already hurt.
Tim, we have a saying here. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, I'm familiar.
It's football season.
It is
football season. And just like when we talked to me, O'Brien, in Jacksonville last year, like, tell me how this – yeah, I know you have a few guys out on defense. Like, if that's the hope for Miami, guess what? Dorian Williams is going in for Matt Milano. No problem. Ed Aller being out, can I introduce you to other guys on the defensive line here? This is what the roster that Brandon Beane has built. They're not paper thin. And to hear the Dolphins' offensive line, it's not. Whew. Now, are we giving Daniel Jones his flowers at this point?
It feels weird.
Yeah.
I think we are. This might be a slight over-embellishment, but he is what I think people thought Josh Allen would become, but the light version of it.
No, it's funny. I just think he's Sam Darnold. Like, sometimes it's going to take a change of scenery. And like Darnold, he went to Carolina in between. Like Daniel Jones had a layover in Minnesota, if you remember that last
Baker
year.
Mayfield did that same thing, but Daniel Jones was never really given an opportunity anywhere. Now he won the job over somebody who was drafted in the top 5.
Right.
And it's 2 weeks, so who really knows? But if this is the Daniel Jones that the Colts have been given, good for them and good for him.
Last thought on Miami, and I think for McDaniel, the indictment is this. Tua goes out, and you can't change your style of offense. You can't figure out how to win games other ways. He just seems to be a one-trick pony. And to hear that story, Marcel, how would you define your culture? You got to know your elevator speech, Tim. That's a simple question. Like, if you ask Sean McDermott that question, define your, he would say, like, if I'm channeling, we're going to make you a better player and we're going to make you a better man. You will enjoy your team here in Buffalo. Like, honestly, it doesn't have to be this long philosophy. He'll learn from it, I suppose. Happy hour is on the way. More of Terrible Take Timmy here. He is sitting in for Danger. Danger will be back tomorrow for our 1-hour show. With Happy Hour, we invite you. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Hey, if you've never called, say, hey, I'd like to talk to those guys. Well, it's your opportunity to do so. You can write to us on X, The Fan Rochester. Special hello, everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider today here on The Fan Rochester.
Rochester.
WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Big day for our town. The PGA Championship returning to Oak Hill Country Club in the year 2035. It will be major number 8 in the history of Oak Hill. Ed Oliver, Matt Milano are out. Injury report lists Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson as questionable. Johnson talking about run support.
Just how they're running the ball, they run the ball well, and they try to have like a pretty balanced offense, you know what I'm saying? But they are running the ball a lot. I mean, I feel like it just comes down to us, just making sure we're focused on what we need to do, not so much on them, because at the end of the day, we got to play good football.
Coverage tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock here on The Fan. Rochester, Bills and Dolphins. Khalil Mack going on injured reserve. He's out at least 4 weeks. The Cubs are in the postseason. They clinch a berth today with a win over the Pirates. Yankees in Minnesota. The Mets hosting the Padres. The Red Wings are in Worcester. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
What's the world going to look like 10 years from now? Welcome back here to the Sports Bar 2035. I guess we were all expecting this, within months because we did such a great job, we were told. And then we were just kind of waiting. And then we realized, oh, yeah, there's other cities, other metros that have more money, and they have nice golf courses too. Did we get left behind? The answer is no, we did not. Oak Hill, thank you. I've always had this dream of could we have more major league sports here in Rochester. We've yet to have a school here in Rochester make that jump for Division I across the board. It's great that RIT has hockey, and we love that. But they or the U of R or whatever school, they don't have the stomach to do that. It would take a lot. And quite frankly, that's not their job. But it'd be great for our community, right? Major League Lacrosse, I think it's great. The National Lacrosse League, I should say, with the Nighthawks. But it's not quite at that tier. Tim, I think it's just great that we have something to look forward to here 10 years from now. But then I look at the age of some of these guys. My gosh, 10 years, Rory's going to be 46. Like Kepka's going to be 45. I mean, the guys that are going to be in contention 10 years from now, I don't even know their names. Some of them might be in grade school right now.
Yeah, there's probably kids that are in middle school that are going to be in the top 10 of that in 10 years. And it's fun to think about, but it's also a little scary to think about because it's going to come by. It'll be here before we know it, but it also that's a lot of life to live between now and then. Yeah,
so let's not wish time away, but it's a marker on the road here, and at least this time, I don't think I'm not one. Okay, I don't have friends. I don't know any members. Right? I'm not at Oak Hill unless there's a tournament, and I heard about it. I understood, read all the reports and everything. Like, hey, we're doing some redesign. We're going to take down a lot of trees, and then when you went back to it 2 years ago, like, what the hell? What do they do to this? I love those trees. And then you realize, all right, I get it. It's better for the flow. And maybe that hole right by the clubhouse as you enter, they got to figure something out with that because, traffic kind of bottlenecks there a little bit. And I would think for the golfers themselves, maybe that's difficult to getting through. But that's something they could fix.
I mean,
easily.
If they can't figure that out in 10 years, maybe we don't deserve it back 10 years after that. But yeah, it's something, again, I've gone each of the last 2 PGAs. I went in 13. I went to the senior one, which I think was 19. I don't remember the year, actually. Yeah. But
19, you're right.
All the events that they put on there are done really, really well done. And, again, we've got 10 years to look forward to this one. In 23, we had that Michael Block moment. I'm sure we will see that countless times in 2035.
Michael Block will come back to Rochester.
It'll be awesome.
You're like, hey, we welcome into the sports bar Michael Block, and he'll just be like this average Joe guy. Like, yeah, I was really good back then.
Our very own Happy Gilmore.
We don't have dates for this, though. We know the year. Maybe they just don't want to confuse people, or maybe just maybe, like, wouldn't it be nice if they moved it back to August? They moved it to May for television.
Part of me wants it to be absolute chaos as well, though. Like, if we get a snow major in golf, like, it would probably be a lifetime punishment. We would never receive an opportunity to host something like that again. But I thrive on chaos. Sign me up for that as long as the 4 days gets through.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. You just said that if you speak this into existence, then for 10 years from now, gosh, you will be on forever suspension. Like, you can't, like, that of all your takes, that is the worst take of all time.
That happens a lot. It seems.
We don't need to wish anything like that into existence. The weather here 2 years ago was fine. Yeah, it rained the one day on Saturday, but it didn't really. We had a frost warning the first morning, but that quickly passed, and they have frost warnings in Arizona and other places in May too. So it's not unusual.
Oh, come on, snow major.
Now, Tim, come on. Tim, terrible take on that. So nobody was agreeing with you. That's not good radio, Tim.
Let it snow.
866-4FAN, 866-4326. By this time tomorrow, we will be in the Buffalo Bills radio network. 8:15 tomorrow night. We were joined earlier by Brandon Tobin, WQAM in Miami. Doesn't sound really promising, does it? It's almost like we've kind of gone to what's next. And it's funny how you see parallels because, I mean, we were doing the show right at the tail end of the drought era, and, like, Rex Ryan got hired. Why did Rex Ryan get hired? It was almost like, hey, we need to hire a name. We need to hire the biggest name. And to hear Brandon Tobin, everybody clamoring down there on his radio show for John Gruden, it's like, oh, yeah, how many times did we say that over the years? The Bills should hire Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher doesn't want to coach. John Gruden would want to coach.
John Gruden might not even be welcome to coach based on how he went out the last time.
That's a tricky one because I think the world has changed. We got to acknowledge that. But I also think that's a long time. Like, for people that were like, oh, Kaepernick should get a chance. No, it was a long time he was out. Like, you don't, there's no God-given right, like, after how many years? I guess Dick Vermeil would be the excited. He was out 11 years or whatever it was, something crazy like that.
Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. Hall of Famer.
Fine.
Yeah. The guy that makes too much sense to me, Tim, I want Belichick in Miami. I want Belichick in Miami because the owner is a jock sniffer. The owner fancies himself of, like, let me stick it to the Patriots here. Belichick could probably sweet talk his way. Couldn't interview for the job before because it wasn't open at that time. That makes too much sense. And you know what? It would be great for the Bills. Would anybody be worried if Bill Belichick came back into the AFC East? Absolutely not. Absolutely freaking not. We're saying the game is past Gruden by. Well, you could debate me on that. I think that's debatable. I think it's past Belichick by. You don't believe me? Look at his last few years in New England. You don't believe me? Look how he hired all his cronies in North Carolina. Not the best person for the job, the one he's most comfortable with. He's comfortable.
Does this get you boxed wine as well? Is that still on the table?
Yeah, it's not. It should retroactively. Had that bet with... See, I didn't know all the backstory, and now that you piece it all together, because the one thing I know about NFL security, they dig deep on stuff, things that you don't necessarily know about. So other teams probably knew the backstory of Belichick's relationship, and they're putting things together like, do we want to invite that circus into our organization? I always found it curious how he couldn't get interviews. Like, okay, Atlanta interviewed him, but why nobody else? Why wouldn't you at least want to sit down and talk? And then, well, it's because no GM wants to cede power. Or they just knew he was a horny old man.
Sure.
It's okay.
Yeah,
you don't have to answer every Tim. You don't have to react to everything I say, even when I throw you a curveball like that and I channel my inner Mike Danger. I would be stunned. Reality, I would love for that to happen. Miami should be moving on from Mike McDaniel. The question is if they lose tomorrow night, and it's embarrassing, and if it's like what PJ Glasser kind of suggested, like we had the coach of the Chargers a few years ago. Remember that guy, Staley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was a bludgeoning. They got destroyed.
The Chargers quit on him, and that was a bad Raider team. It's like, oh gosh, this is a joke. They're professionals. They're not even trying. If it gets to that point, if the Bills win by 40 tomorrow night, and that was the advice from PJ Glasser. He's like, hey, PJ, would you play this game? Yeah, for fun. You just tease it up. Bills by 20, Bills by 30, maybe 4. I'm like, what? Really?
More.
It's like that YouTube commercial where they're hitting the button. More. I like how you said it. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. We can throw every disclaimer in the book here. Here's the way Miami could win. Ready? It's multiple things. Special teams touchdown. Not a special teams play. Special teams touchdown. Like a punt return, a kick return for a score. You're gaining one there. You're winning the takeaway giveaway. Getting a pick six or something like that, that would be a positive. And then Achane. Notice I didn't say Tua in anything in that. You just Tua part of the equation and not, giving the ball away. But you would have to rely on the Bills' special teams falling apart. You would have to rely on, oh gosh, this run defense really does suck. See what happened to Derrick Henry. And you'd have to rely on the Bills giving the ball away. And even then, I don't know if that's enough to beat Buffalo tomorrow night. Tim.
Right. Tua is basically on record as saying he's basically just trying to manage the game against Josh Allen. Josh Allen can go out there and do what he wants at will, and Tua has to play really well to play mediocre just to have a chance for this team to be victorious on Thursday Night Football. I don't know if I'll go as far as saying 40. I will say double digits, and I say that the Bills have their way with Miami. I don't know if it leads to the firing of the coach, but I also think that should it go completely awry the rest of September, he's not going to see into October.
I will say tomorrow night will be one of these workmanlike. I'm going to put the Bills at 30 points again. I'll give the Dolphins more points than 30-17. Bills barely cover. Does that sound fair? I think it's one of those where, okay, and then there's a backdoor score in there, and it still doesn't get the Dolphins to cover. But I think if you're going to say, do we see Mitch Trubisky in the fourth quarter? I say yes. I say absolutely yes on this. Our number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us. You can leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Say hello to our viewers there, and our audience is always growing there. Or you can write to us, the fan Rochester, as Chris did, talking about Tyreek Hill. This guy just lost credibility when he said publicly he's a model player. He pushed his pregnant girlfriend down the stairs before he even got drafted. POS. Yeah, the idea that Tyreek Hill is going to end up the winner in all this, that the Dolphins will trade him, and the only reason you'll be trading for him is you think you can win more games. He's going to go to a contender. And a lot of people already penciling in Kansas City, that Reed would bring him back, like as if you needed another reason to dislike the Chiefs. And I'll say this about the Bills. And look, the Bills they're not immune from this, okay? They did draft a punter that, okay, he was exonerated. Everything was fine there, but you had that storyline. They did sign Von Miller, and nothing happened with it. He was exonerated. But between Rashee Rice and some of these other characters that the Chiefs come in, at least the Bills, relatively speaking, they're not a team that you're going to hate for that reason. And Tyreek Hill, you're right, Chris, he is a POS. He absolutely is. We can say that out loud.
Every team is prone to choosing victory over morals, but the Chiefs have absolutely just disregarded any sort of morality, starting with Andy Reid. The Rice thing, having Rice's back publicly with those shirts is awful.
Weird. And yeah, so if you missed it, it was Kelsey out there like free for, like wearing Rashee Rice T-shirts. It's like, timeout. Okay, he's not in jail. He's suspended by the NFL, so he's free. He can go into a restaurant he wants. It's just his employer saying, take a seat here. Also, people got hurt in that accident.
Almost tragically.
Yeah, people, victims from that accident are like, hey, what are you doing?
No tact. That's actually a disservice to everybody that was involved in that, to have you want to support your people and be there when they need you, but to disparage everybody else involved with that the way that they did was a really bad look, especially, again, winning makes things go away. You're 0-2 and you're putting that kind of performance on. It's a pretty bad look. And that said, they're probably looking into someone like Tyreek Hill to try and fix the problems they've got.
Tim, I'm going to throw you a fastball here.
I hope to catch it.
Okay, so you're good at trivia.
Yes.
The Cubs clinched a playoff spot today.
Yes.
The last time the Cubs were in the postseason, who did they open against?
The real playoffs or the 2017 one?
I'm going to just ask the question again.
Okay. I don't know the answer because it was the fake one. It was the bubble playoffs.
All right, you're right on that.
Was it Milwaukee?
It was Miami.
Okay, like I said, bubble playoffs.
Okay, but you got the gist of it. They were, the bubble playoffs. That was the year where baseball was like, well, all right, let's get a season in, whatever it was, 40, 60 games. I don't even remember. I barely remember anything about that other than everybody booing Rob Manfred and in 2020. That's actually surprising. That's a big market team.
Big market team that had they got theirs in 16.
Yeah, they
mailed it in.
This was also another thing, and this is a trivia question that I love because now it's kind of ruined. But up until 3:30 this afternoon, who was the last team in Chicago sports to make the postseason, Tim?
The Bulls?
The White Sox.
That sounds impossible.
That does, doesn't it? Like everything went like Tony La Russa drove that team into the ground.
I can't tell you the last time the White Sox made the playoffs. So
in 21. So that's funny how time kind of flies right by. And so the Cubs, they beat the Pirates today, which you don't get a cookie normally, but you can have the celebration. This game was actually in Pittsburgh today. So Cubs in the postseason. Look, it is football season. We kind of joke about that, but these races are going to be fun here. Got the Jays tonight in Tampa. The Reds got a win, so the Reds still kind of hanging around there, 6-2. The Mets felt a little different last night, Tim. Watch that, and it's actually kind of cool. Who knew that Francisco Lindor's wife is a violinist, and she came out and did the Star Spangled Banner right in front of her own family. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. That kind of sets a vibe. And the Mets actually won a game. I didn't know that was possible anymore.
The Mets did win, and they did it against a team that they need to keep beating because those are playoff or wild card contenders that you want to have the best seed possible, especially if the Dodgers fall out of that.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about just getting a spot right now. You're like ahead of me on that. I'm like, okay, it's nice that the Padres are still 4 up on the Mets in that regard. But the idea that, okay, maybe the Mets could catch the Padres and we Mets and Cubs. I'm just thinking the other way. I don't want the Reds catching it. How is Arizona? How is Cleveland?
Cleveland's in the mix.
Giants.
Texas is in the mix. That's the thing. There's
too many bad teams in the mix. And the way the Mets have played here this month, did you know since, there's a stat here, since mid-July, teams with the worst record in baseball, it's like the Rockies, and there's another team, maybe the Pirates, and then number 3 is the Mets. Like the Mets went from this team in August 1st, first place, to like where they are now, just barely in the playoff picture. Baseball's it's a long season, but by making it a long season, you could say too long, but then you know what? If you're going to have this, expanded playoffs and everything, then just do the unthinkable. Shorten the season. Baseball Raider would hate that. Can you imagine that? Like, hey, we're only going to play like 3 games a week or something like that. Will we pay more attention if your team wasn't on every night? Would you pay more attention that you love baseball, but my team isn't on tonight, but hey, you know what? I'm going to watch Scooble and the Tigers here.
I have a theory that I've held on to for close to 20 years now, and this was when there were fewer playoff teams, so it made sense that I'd have to modify it to make it fit the 6-team program. But 140 games with like a best of 13 World Series instead of a best of 7 because
What? Best of 13?
yeah, you're playing 162 games a year right now. That's not even 10% if you get rid of to 140. You're dropping 22 regular season games. You are putting then more playoff games in, more games that matter, and then you are finding the true best team, not just who was hot at the right time in October with good pitching.
I still think best of 7 is good enough to, you don't need a best of 9. There was one World Series back in the day, baseball writer would tell you. Back in 1915, there was a best of 9. No, it was like the best of 3 for the wild card round. It's like, okay, it's crazy to think that the Dodgers could be out in 2 games.
162 games and your season is over in 36 hours because you got Tarek Skubal or whoever you get.
Well, and maybe that is baseball would then say, we have this right, Tim, because you know what? You have to finish with the 2 best records and you don't have to worry about that.
Sure, reward them, I guess. But to have the other 4 teams playing a best of 3, just you got to lose 2 times and 162 games are out the window. I don't like that. But
well, we've got shots coming up here in the sports bar. You remember the way this works, Tim?
yes.
I give you stories. You can react or not. We have time for your calls. Last call in the sports bar. Get it, sports bar, last call, flick the lights, whatever. Imagery is in your mind at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider today here on The Fan.
Sports Update.
The PGA Championship coming back to Rochester, returning to Oak Hill Country Club. The year will be 2035. It's the 8th major that Oak Hill has hosted. No surprise, Ed Oliver, Matt Milano out for tomorrow night's game. The Bills listing Taron Johnson, Cam Lewis, and Shaq Thompson as questionable. Josh Allen saying nice things about the Dolphin defense.
Well, I think they're playing a lot better than maybe what their record shows. Their front over there is filled with a lot of guys that can get after the quarterback. So we got to be on our P's and Q's and understand what they're going to try to do to us.
Bills and Dolphins, our pregame coverage will begin at 4 o'clock tomorrow here on the Fan Rochester. Congratulations to the Chicago Cubs. They beat the Pirates today. The Cubs in the postseason for the first time since the year 2020. Rochester Red Wings tonight playing in Worcester. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Listen to 95.7 The Fan Rochester on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps, and take the sports leader with you everywhere you go.
Yeah, there's a thing in Buffalo that sometimes they do to us here in Rochester. Welcome back here to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider today. Danger will be back tomorrow for the heavy lift show of 1 hour. You ever notice this, Tim, like when you hear Sabres writers or Sabre, well, you know, they're going to send so-and-so down to Roch. I'm like, okay, tell me you're not from Rochester. I don't like it. Doesn't annoy me. For some people, like, hey, Rochester's upstate New York. Okay, that's different. People kind of get put off by that, but maybe there's other things that, people from the outside call us that we don't like. I think there's a more better example, like, say, San Francisco. If you're from the Bay Area, they hate it when you refer to their city as Frisco. Bringing all this up, Bill Belichick made a similar gaffe this week, or he simply doesn't care, one or the other. When talking about the opponent, he would only refer to them as Central. Apparently, UCF grads would rather have them call your school Central Florida or UCF, while the team that's based in Orlando, Florida, is actually a 6.5-point favorite on Saturday, and their social media is having all sorts of fun with us as they take on North Carolina, 3:30, the kickoff.
I think that the Bills and Roch part of it, rather, is actually an athlete thing. I think that those guys take that from the Amerks and Sabres. They're not from here, so it's understandable. But yeah. I know that a lot of the athletes say Roch, and maybe that's our fault for not coaching them up.
Yeah, like that's where, like, if somebody, I feel like the next time, say somebody like Joe Yurden says Roch, and you're like, no. Like we don't say you're. Hey, you know what? Hey, tomorrow are you going up to Buff?
Rough Buff, baby.
Yeah, Buff. Yeah, head on up to Buff. Oh, yeah, I'm going up to Buffalo. Get some hot wings and blue cheese. It's not a great look for the WNBA, but we can easily explain this. So, WNBA playoffs, they've started. Golden State, nice story. They qualified for the playoffs in their first season, right? Problem is, after playing all their games of the regular season at the Chase Center, that's the new home of the Warriors, the Valkyries are now going to have to play tonight in San Jose. Not ideal. Turns out the Chase Center was booked 2 years ago for the, I don't even know how to say this. I've seen this a lot, the LeVar Cup in tennis. Subsequently, the owners of the Warriors were awarded the expansion franchise. So, in other words, they booked the arena before they even knew the Valkyries came into existence.
Well, I mean, that's just something that you got to plan 10, 15 years ahead for. If this was plotted out for 2040, there would be no problem with it. But they're going to go 0-2 and they'll be done. So sorry that it had to happen in San Jose, but
it's a good season for the.
If you're an expansion team that finished over 500 and made the playoffs, congrats.
I will be curious. I'm going to look at the attendance tonight in San Jose because if it's a thing, the WNBA, and you're bringing it to a different area, and you can say, oh, it's all one and the same. No, it's not. If you've been to the Bay Area, trying to get from San Jose up to in like rush hour and everything else, that would be like akin to, hey, I live in Pasadena, but I'm going to go to Anaheim. I would say it would be that, yeah, you can do it, but it's not pleasurable. So it's like fighting through traffic and everything. But if they can draw in San Jose for this team, that's, I'll be curious here. I am hoping, Tim, let me plant my flag, that the Seattle Mariners win the NL West. Give us something different. The Mariners have stars led by catcher Cal Raleigh. The Big Dumper, great nickname, hit 2 more homers last night. He's up to 56. That breaks the record previously held by Mickey Mantle for most home runs in a season by a switch hitter. Raleigh has also tied Ken Griffey Jr. for the franchise single-season mark. Seattle is up a half game on Houston for the division. The Mariners in Kansas City tonight. The Astros hosting the Rangers.
I want to see him get to 60, and I kind of want to see them make the playoffs so he wins MVP. I think that's his only path to get past Aaron Judge there. But I also don't really want to see them in the playoffs just because they do have Raleigh and Rodriguez and a couple good pitchers, but nobody in the West, particularly Seattle, like they don't really do much for me. I think that it's basically you've got Toronto, who's hot. You've got the Yankees, who are always a thing. The Red Sox, who always seem to be a thing. And that's about it.
I think that Raleigh wins regardless. Like
I do not.
People are always on to the next, and Judge has been fantastic this year. But is there a psychology to, hey, we got to give somebody new this award?
There is a psychology to that, and I think that a lot of people, not around here because we were the benefactor of it locally, a lot of people thought last year Lamar Jackson should have won.
Right. So
I think they needed something new and fresh. Josh Allen should have won the year before that, but that's neither here nor there.
That's near or there, but it's that debate. What I would always land on is me saying Josh Allen, and I think Allen, because if you're just looking at it statistically, Lamar was the better quarterback. However, Allen, with all these new pieces, actually elevated the team. So in my mind, by elevating the team and actually having a better seed in the postseason, that's ultimately like they were in a better position. Josh Allen was the better quarterback. But by me saying that doesn't mean I'm bashing Lamar Jackson. Somehow we got to that point.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there. Like, just because you prefer one over the other does not make the other bad. That one I'll never understand, and that's just a sports flaw in general. Like,
I think that's the world we live in today, though, Tim. Like, there's no room for nuance. There's no room for taking the middle on everything.
But you said
there's no room for, we're hosting a different type of show. I can go down that path, but I will not. I don't know how you fix this if you're the Yankees. If there's any argument of all the postseason teams, who's got the worst bullpen? Yeah, it's the Yankees. In their last 8 games, their ERA, Tim, 12.68. 12. Is that good? Yeah, it's great if you're at bat, but no. Prior to that, since July, it was nearly at 6. What's the solution? I guess complete games from Fried, Rodon, and whoever else. Luis Heel taking the mound tonight in Minnesota. That was crazy last night. They had this big lead and ended up winning 10-9 because their bullpen, bunch of arsonists for the Yankees.
I was looking it up last night just because I was curious on how bad it's been since the All-Star break and the trade deadline. Those trade deadline acquisitions, not just pitchers, but all of them have been not good.
No.
Like, Doval is almost useless. Bird isn't even in the majors anymore. He's got a 7 ERA in AAA. Caballero's fast, but that's a one-trick pony.
It's weird. Like, maybe this is the cautionary tale because here you had Helsley for St. Louis, and he's been a disaster. His ERA over 10 for the Mets, where he was thought of, okay, we really have a setup guy now for Diaz. No, you don't. He single-handedly lost them multiple games, so now he's on the roster and mop-up duty. That's it. Which, like, the first time he came out, like in the 8th inning, they were giving him the closer treatment, like turn off the lights and all the scoreboards brought fire and everything. Like,
man, it's fun until it's not working.
Stop. How about you do something before you actually do stuff like that? Hey, congratulations to former Buffalo Bill wide receiver Stephon Diggs and Cardi B. Cardi B went on the CBS Morning Show today, announced that she is expecting. Cardi B has 3 other children with another rapper, Offset. Diggs has a daughter from a previous relationship. Diggs with the Patriots so far, pedestrian, 10 catches, 89 yards, 2 games, and he's due to be a father once again.
Congratulations to him, and good luck, I guess. I've got I could not care less about somebody else having a child. It just does nothing for me.
Isn't that like funny how like we're so on to the next thing? It's just a random day in the summer, and there's Stephon Diggs on a boat handing out pink substance. Oh my gosh, what is this? Shame, shame. And we're all worked up, and now we're kind of into the season here. Diggs is winding down here.
He was just doing good dad stuff on that boat. That's what I learned just now.
That's
good for him. I hope he's a good father, and I hope that they're all happy together.
Well said, Tim. We always take the high road here in the sports bar. We have time for last call. Last call is for you, 866-4326, 866-4FN. We'll also tell you what's on tap tomorrow. You're like, oh, come on, it's going to be a 1-hour show. You're going to mail it in. I'm like, no, not at all. We're going to get you fired up tomorrow. And if you're lucky enough to go to the game tomorrow night, make us a part of your day tomorrow on the drive out. My name is Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider today here on The Fan.
Sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call is for you, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. As this time tomorrow, you won't be able to call. We'll be in Buffalo Bills pregame tomorrow, working on things for Friday. Coming up tomorrow on the show, 1 hour. I know it's really tough, 3 to 4.
I just pulled a muscle thinking about it.
Andy Behrens will be joining us tomorrow. So to start off your week 3 here, and hopefully you're 2-0 in fantasy, and even if you're 0-2, still time to pull it together. Andy Behrens from the Deep Shot will be joining us, so you can optimize your lineups, and if there's anything still sitting out there in your league on the waiver wire, Andy can tell us what you should go pick up. He'll be joining us tomorrow here in the Sports Bar. Again, our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X at the Fan Rochester. This goes back to the story of, well, Belichick calling UCF Central Florida, and like, hey, when you're dissing people, like, I think there are little things here for our town. Like when I hear Buffalo guys call us Roch, I'm like, no, that's not it. Chris pointing out there was another one. I thought I was taken aback by the tendency around Buffalo for people to say Ra-cha-cha. I remember that from long ago. Like, I'm going to go to Ra-cha-cha. But I haven't heard that in a while. So
I've never understood it, so I don't think it bothers me. But yeah, I would never say it myself.
Yeah.
I had a friend that went to UCF, and they would always correct, like, oh, my friend goes to Central Florida. It's like, no, I go to UCF. It's like, that's the same thing. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand what the difference is other than, like, for marketing purposes. But if you say UCF, you are correct. If you say Central Florida, it's like the ECHL. The ECHL no longer stands for the Eastern or the East Coast Hockey League. It's literally just the 4 letters.
Really?
Fun fact. Yeah.
Oh,
it's just the ECHL. It means nothing.
It means
it's just
nothing.
4 letters.
It's just 4 letters. Like ESPN, Entertainment and Sports Network, actually means something. ECHL. See, I did not know that, Tim.
If you call it the East Coast League, it is technically incorrect.
Maybe you want to just kind of divorce yourself from having a directional, stigma. If you say Central Florida and you put university, by the way, like, it's easier to get a university label now. More universities, but we're the university. UCF, University of Central Florida. Oh, okay.
No, not Central Florida. Just UCF.
Just UCF.
I don't understand it, but it is a thing. And
okay.
Maybe it's because they were like a Conference USA school and a lower level D1 school, and now they're big time, and maybe that's part of their branding and marketing.
Is there anything I could do to insult you inadvertently as a Bonaventure fan? If I could say Bonnies, St. Bona.
I don't get St. Bona. People correct people on that. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But no, nothing bothers me unless you bring up the scandal or whatever that's completely irrelevant and way less than some of these scandals that happened in Power 5 schools.
20 years ago? Or are you talking about that one?
Yeah, that one
yeah.
was really not that big of a deal compared to a certain one in Pennsylvania and whatnot, where they simply got a slap on the wrist.
That one in Pennsylvania, and that would be one where, I don't know, like if I went down to the tailgate there and be like, hey, where did the statue used to be? Can you show?
Really,
Can you
really
imagine
bad.
if you're like your Borat going down to Penn State? Tell me about the tradition here. Where was Joe Paterno? Tell me, what was it like? Did you know the defensive coordinator was doing these things? Can you imagine just going around and just purposely? See, there's a bit right there. Borat, you can take that.
Causing chaos, man.
Causing chaos, just like going down and insulting drunk college fans.
No, it takes a lot to bother me. You can get me going, as we have 5 minutes left here. You can get me going if you were to do the Syracuse thing, but we really don't need to do the Syracuse thing because
fine.
we don't even play Syracuse anymore. That's a whole thing. But whatever.
That's a whole thing.
That's the only thing you can get me. The Syracuse flag planting.
Well, I would think that, with the game being in Orlando, you might see again, and this is so weird. Is there any other significant other in sports that's allowed on the sidelines, that goes on the sidelines? Like, that's 2 weeks in a row. You've had Jordan Hudson. Actually, no, check that. 3. She was down there for the loss right at the end. There's a play going on right next to the old man. And there she was, the handshake line. Wow. North Carolina beat Richmond. Ooh. Correct me if I'm wrong. Richmond A10 school. Yeah, come on. Really?
FCS.
Yeah. Go get out of here with that. But yep, you got to do the handshake at the end. And she's right next to him. Like, the other coaches be like, what the hell? Well, Jordan Hudson, story coming out today that, and this isn't a surprise, like, if there's somebody that's tailor-made for Dancing with the Stars, it would be her.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's not, Tim. The story is this, that Dancing with the Stars definitely wanted. And who knew that you could negotiate things? And apparently she wanted all the creative control. Final word on the edits, everything else. Look, you're not Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills and HBO and Hard Knocks getting the final word on everything. Good on ABC. They're like, no, we're not going to set the standard. We're not going to break the rules for this.
She seems wonderful. Let's go there.
I keep wondering. Like Pablo Torre. Now, Pablo Torre's, digging in on Adam Silver in the NBA. I think it's great. But when are we going to get the expose what this really is?
Once that goes south.
Once that gets,
it's going to be awesome.
I think people have the story. They just don't want to get sued. Just like how I'm not, I'm putting here, but I'm leaving it short of the pin. Leaving it open-ended for you to decide. What is he really talking about there?
I think she's wonderful.
She's 24.
Perfect.
72.
That's math. That's a football score.
It's more about her or him. Oh, it's definitely about him. She, how do you even get involved? Like Lolita.
Man, I see some stuff when I'm out and about, and I think that if I were to witness that in real time in person, I would be creeped out. But whatever works, I guess.
That would be it. Fun show today here on the Fan Rochester. We spoke in the 3 o'clock hour, if you missed that, with PJ Glasser. And Tim, not only is he saying Bills, like, have fun with it. Tease it up, basically. Bills by 20. Bills by 30. Bills by 40. Okay. All right. Thanks, PJ. I have the game 30-17. What was your score? Did you give one?
38-10.
38-10. Duffy will be on with Danger tomorrow morning, the Tommy Tells It Like It Is segment, Thursday one. So we'll hear Danger's pick tomorrow morning on CMF. He will be in here 3 o'clock tomorrow. So again, PJ Glasser for his winners. By the way, he says Clemson will cover against Syracuse, 17.5 points. That's a bad spot for Syracuse. Would have felt a lot better had Clemson won that game against Georgia Tech.
Clemson struggled against Troy. They lost to LSU and Georgia Tech. Syracuse barely beat UConn. Got beat up pretty bad by Tennessee. This could be
really ugly. Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be brutal. Hope I'm wrong on that.
63-21. Or what was it? What are the ages? How old is Belichick? 74?
72.
Whatever their ages are is my score.
72-24.
There it is. Clemson in a rout.
Clemson in a rout. 4 o'clock hour, Brandon Tobin from WQAM in Miami, where, it sounds as bad as we're all thinking down there in Miami. And, Stephen Ross, going back to the drawing board, Stephen Ross not showing up anywhere during the preseason might have been a clue, too. He knew it was going to be bad. If you missed any of today's show, you can go and listen to it on demand. Just download the Odyssey app, and you can go back and listen to that or anything in the past 72 hours in the Rewind feature. Tim, thank you to you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, Danger's out next week, too, so we got to figure something out next week. But until then, JR Sport Brief coming your way next. Buffalo Bills football tomorrow night. Our pregame coverage will begin at 4 o'clock. This is Rochester Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester. Have a good night, everyone.